Welcome everyone to Comics from the Multiverse, episode 428. I am Peter, and with me is Absolute Matman.
Hey, let's go. I'm gonna get so jacked. I'm walking around like this. Absolute version of me nobody wants.
No.
I'll tell you that much. My wife barely wants that.
This is a DC Comics podcast. We get together, we talk about our DC books that we read this week. Coming up on this week's show is Absolute Batman issue 1, Action Comics 1070, Batman and Robin 14, Green Lantern Corps Special issue 1, and Batman Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age issue 5. Plus, I'll be doing a Patreon book of Batman and the Outsiders issue 18. So that's what's coming up on this week's show. Before we get to any of that, though, Matt, how was your week?
It was good. I had my birthday. I'm inching closer to 40. So yeah. But we spent it on the Warner Brothers studio tour, so that was really cool. Got to see a whole bunch of fun superhero things. But what got me the most was so you know the famous story from the filming of Jurassic Park where a hurricane hit and there's actual footage, right? Of the hurricane in the movie. So after they got everybody off safely, Spielberg, has a movie to make. So he comes back and he has a good relationship with Warner Brothers. And so he rents this area that Warner Brothers is still one of the only movie studios that has an active outdoors set that looks like the jungle. And so the scene where the T-Rex is chasing the Jeep with Laura Dern and Jeff Goldblum was filmed on that very lot. And I got to stand on the road from where they filmed it. And that was a huge moment for me, So, seeing the Tumbler and Christopher Reeve's, Superman costume, really cool. But standing where they made Jurassic Park, huge.
I mean, I get it. It's still just a road, though. I'm not...
Yeah, but it's just the fact that it looks, pretty much the same, right? Like it's still the overgrown, and it's just, it's where one of my favorite things was filmed, So I like that. I like to go to places that were in movies. That in fact, the day before we went up to the neighborhood where Tommy and Lindsay's houses were in Halloween.
Okay.
And they are literally catty corner across the street from each other. But the way that Carpenter filmed that, it makes the street look so wide. It is a very narrow street. We have a small car. We have a compact car. It took me about a 3-point turn to make that turn because there wasn't enough. So I did get a picture of Lindsay's house, which is kind of weird. You have a picture of random people's houses in your phone. And I wanted to get a picture of Tommy's house, but they are completely redoing the front, as if saying they are tired of these Halloween nerds coming by.
We're going to make it a luminous green so no one associates it with that movie anymore.
Yes. And it was funny because as we were driving by, flip around, try to go look at that house, there's another group of people walking up to take pictures there, even though there's construction being done. So, but yeah, no, the tour was fantastic. I did get a bit emotional seeing Christopher Reeve's actual costume from Superman. So that was cool. And then there's a lot more of the newer DC stuff. They have a whole section that's dedicated to, from the Chris Reeves to Matt Reeves Batman. So I thought that was pretty fun. They didn't call it that, but that's how I remember it. Right? Chris Reeves to Matt Reeves. But yeah.
I know. How was your week? Good job. Nice time for your birthday. I'll answer that question in a second, but I just want to interject here on DC movies. It was pointed out to me that in the last 5 years, DC have had 10 movies come out, and 9 of them, well, maybe that's a bit harsh, 8 of them have bombed. One was so-so, and that was Aquaman 2. The Batman's the only one that actually was a hit. Every other one is underperformed to outright bombed. Obviously with the newest one being Joker 2, which is cleaning up the bottom of the charts. I don't know, just amusing to think about how much pressure's on Superman next year to maybe do something.
Yeah.
So anyway, my week was all right. It's busy. It's October. A lot of October done stuff. I'm editing streams episodes. It feels like every goddamn day. So that is what it is. It's a lot of work, but it's fun. It's nice to see a lot of horror movies. Actually, on watching movies, I did watch just randomly. I wanted something to watch last night. I didn't know what I wanted to watch. I was like, okay, I'll do a horror movie because it's October. I ended up settling on a Japanese movie called Evil Dead Trap from 1988. And I had a blast with that movie. It's like if people in Japan who do a lot of like extreme gore and industrial style horror were also fans of Giallo movies and decided to make a movie that was like a meshing of both styles. That's what it is. It was I don't know, it was a blast. I was into it. So I recommend Evil Dead Trap. It's widely available in most of your free platforms in the US. So
very, very nice. Yeah, they on the Shudder series I was watching, they brought that one up because Japan will have a tendency when they rename things because I don't know what that name translates to, right, from the Japanese.
Oh, the original name, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, if that's what it was actually called. But here in the States, in order to try to get the VHS market, right, they'll put an Evil Dead Trap next to the Evil Dead, right? So as you're going through the video store back in the day, they're out of Evil Dead. I'll pick up this one instead.
Yeah, it's got a cool tone, and if actually it's the second Japanese movie from about that year or so that I've seen that was quite good. The other one was called Door, which obviously a very simple title, but I think most people kind of think of Japan's horror starting in the late 90s with Ring and kind of going from there, but no, it turns out they've got a nice little bouquet of movies from the late 80s that you can dive into.
I don't know if this was from the late 80s, but another one they talked about was Tetsuo Man of Iron.
And Tetsuo the Iron Man is the
there we go.
title.
There we go.
Yeah.
A wild movie, not a Matt movie. Watching them talk about it and going like, looking around like, am I actually seeing this or am I having a hallucination? Is there a gas leak? What is going on?
Yeah, I like that movie. It's more of a sci-fi than a horror, but it's I mean, hell, it's like it's just kind of its own unique thing, to be honest. I don't even know what else to call it.
No. But I think that's from before the late 80s, right? I want to say it came out in the 70s.
No, that was around the same time actually. That was like the late 80s, yeah.
Gotcha. But yeah.
We did that in Ace ages ago. So yeah.
Okay.
I haven't seen the sequels yet though.
There's sequels.
There's 2 sequels.
Oh man, okay. Wild times. Yeah. Speaking of Screams, I did see Tim while I was in LA. So that was nice. Got to talk with him. He took some time out of his busy Octoberthon to eat pizza and talk about Hellboy, which he's very excited for that new movie.
He watched that. I saw it. I don't know what he thinks of it yet, but I saw that he watched it.
He watched it. When I talked to him, he hadn't seen it yet, so I don't know. But man, Tim loves his family, and then Hellboy. So.
Not necessarily in that order.
yeah. Just in case this gets back to them. I don't want them to think, but yes. Very funny. I love that man. He's so funny.
Yeah. For the record, the sequels to Tetsuo the Iron Man are Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer and Tetsuo the Bullet Man.
Body Hammer sounds like an 80s pro wrestler.
I was curious. I was trying to remember what the titles were, and it was bugging me, so I checked.
Yes.
Fun
times.
Yeah, no. But yeah, busy week. I also had the misfortune this week of rewatching the Omen remake, which is a dire, miserable, boring ass time.
Yep.
Like it's just redoing scenes from the originals. There's not even a spark of creativity. It's rough.
It's one of those ones that was like, what was the point of remaking this?
Oh, because someone at Fox saw that there was going to be a 6th of June in 2006.
Yeah.
So they had to shit out a remake just to market it for that day, make their money for the opening weekend, and then that was it. That no one cared ever again.
Yes.
So, yeah, rough times. But at least I got a good movie last night. I got a good movie last Sunday. A Japanese movie, actually. A little sci-fi comedy called Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, which is very creative, and I recommend it. Have you heard of it?
No, of it. Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it, though.
Yeah.
But it was,
I saw the same director, in fact, the same team, because it's a lot of the same actors. They did a movie last year called River, which was the follow-up to Beyond the Infinite 2 Minutes, and that was also very good. So this was like going back to check out the first movie.
Very cool.
So yeah. So yeah, I've had some good experiences this week, but there was that big turd in the middle. Just worth mentioning.
Yes.
So.
Have you seen the first Omen yet?
No. We're building up to that. That's why I watched the remake. Wait. Gotcha. There's no other reason I'd be watching the remake, Matt, if you weren't like going through them all in order.
No, I get that, but at the same time, I wasn't sure if maybe you had seen it. I don't know if you were going in order or just like, I guess I'll watch this one.
Of course, I'm not a heathen. Of course, I'm going in order. What'd you take me for?
I don't know. Maybe shaking things up.
Nah, Joey doesn't go in order. Filth, casual filth. That's who doesn't go in order.
All right, then call me Muckman, I guess.
Anyway, let's get into the business, shall we? ComiXology top 10. Well, it used to be called that. Now it's just the Kindle rankings, I suppose. But yes, all the books come out on Wednesday. Obviously, you got the Marvel and DC books mixed in with any other publishers that might also sneak in the top 10. You got a guess for number 1, Matt?
The fact that I heard news stories about this book, it makes me, it's absolute Batman 1.
That is correct. Yeah, it was an easy guess this week.
Mm-hmm.
That is number 1, is Absolute Batman. Number 2 is Ultimates. Number 3 is Scarlet, which is a Image book. That's a Kelly Thompson Image book.
Yeah, that's a G.I. Joe.
That's a G.I. Joe thing. 4 is Action Comics. 5 is Exceptional X-Men. 6 is Transformers. 7 is Sentinels, which is a Marvel thing. As in the Sentinels that go after the X-Men, I presume. Number 8 is Batman Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age. 9 is Green Lantern Civil Core Special. And 10 is Batman and Robin. So DC ended up with 5 of the slots in top 10. And Marvel only had 3. Very interesting. After that top 10, though, I mean, DC's pretty slim because the Vampire book's at number 13, but otherwise it's a bunch of Marvel from that point on, for the most part. So, yeah. But hey, yeah, a Scott Snyder Batman book at number 1. What year is it? Is it 2011? Because it feels like 2011.
And apparently it's going to a 3rd printing already. So that's wild.
Fair enough. What can I say, really? But good stuff. We'll see what we think of the book in a few minutes. Now, I hate to do this because I don't like reporting news from a certain website, right?
Gotcha.
Right, but this does look big enough that we should probably mention it, because the annoying thing about Bleeding Cool is that it does actually get some scoops that turn out to be accurate, and this feels worth mentioning. So apparently the scuttlebutt is that in spring of next year, Zdarsky's Batman run will be coming to an end, and the team that's replacing him, whether or not they keep the numbering or go back to number 1 again, who knows. They've not done that with Batman yet since Rebirth started, actually. Where Superman's done it twice by now.
Yeah.
Is apparently Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee might be taking over the book for something. Will it be straight up a Hush Part 2 or something? I don't know, but obviously that's what they did together on Batman. And that was a long-ass time ago now. That was, that'll be nearly 20 years by the time this gets, 19 years specifically, but close enough. Apparently, if you remember, because it mentions it here in the article, I don't remember if this was in the solicits or not. I think it was, but I think in one of the solicits it had Batman double shipping soon, but then that seemed to change and go back to single shipping. Apparently, the reason for that is because this was meant to be happening later this year, but it got pushed back. So now Zdarsky's issues are getting spaced back out to monthly. And I guess it's just to give Jim Lee enough time to get ahead, because
that's my big concern, is that man hasn't been a proper artist, right? He's been a front office type guy for like the last 10, 12 years, So is this book? It's a 22-page book still, right?
Yeah, they're all 20 now, Matt. They've been 22 in a decade, but
gotcha. That's how far my brain goes back. But yeah, so it's going to be a full book then. I hope he has enough time, because you don't want that. You don't want to have this team on this and then have nothing but delays, Jeff Johns style.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm assuming that this has got a set amount of issue. This will be no more than 12, I assume. Yeah. The article also mentioned that Jim Lee's been drawing issues since spring, so it's entirely possible that he will be very, very far ahead by the time the first issue comes out. So I guess like because of all these other responsibilities, because Jim Lee's the one in charge right now at DC, so yeah, I mean, given all the other responsibilities, he's probably playing it very safe and making sure that they're way ahead of the schedule by the time this starts actually coming out.
Now that you're mentioning this, I remember a news story coming across social media about Jim Lee having to cancel. So people had paid for sketches, right? And he had to cancel sketches over the summer. So I'm wondering if this is, I need to refund some people. I wonder if this had something to do with that. Like he was getting behind and he wants to make sure. But yeah, is he the sole publisher or is he still co-publisher of DC?
No, because it's the lady. I can't remember her name.
Javin still, right?
Yeah, she's the other one. Yeah.
Okay.
Although the titles might have changed slightly. I can't remember exactly what the wording was when all that change went through, but yeah, it's not just him. Yeah.
Right.
It's. I mean, this is a big deal. Like, obviously, Lowe's back doing a long Halloween book. Him doing a Batman arc with Jim Lee's another big deal. It's kind of it's kind of like a last go round for them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know Jim Lee. We sometimes he doesn't have his fastball, or Jim Lee, Jeff Loeb, but already through one issue, the 0 issue and the 1 issue of Long Halloween, Last Halloween, seems like he still has a handle on Batman, right? So
yeah.
I
don't know what this will be like. I mean, maybe it'll have Hush as a character in it. I don't know. I don't know if that's what they'd want to do, or if they'd want to just have like another big sort of story where, hey, we get to have all the villains again, just like Hush did, where Jim Lee gets to draw everyone, and it'll be a 12-issue spanning story, and then it'll be done, and it'll go on to whoever the new run is. I mean, I'm not against it. I mean, I've not been liking Zdarsky's run that much, so I'm like, this at least sounds like it's got a bit of novelty to it, and we're going to have various other Bat books alongside it, so if it sucks, it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, we've dealt with that before.
Yeah, so, yeah. By all means, let us know in comments or wherever if you're excited at the prospect of a spiritual follow-up to Hush. Whether it's an actual sequel or just a new story by the same team. We'll see how it goes, but yeah. Now, given that this isn't meant to be coming until spring, I doubt we'll hear any actual proper official news until
we just had December solicits, so we'll probably know more about closer to the end of our year. We'll know what's coming out by March, right? If that's early spring.
If it's coming out in March, we'll hear about it in December.
Because the next solicits that come out are going to be should be January's.
Yes. Yeah, there will be. Yeah, so.
So we still have a couple months of speculation to go.
Yeah, it'll be 2 months, maybe 3 if it's not going to be till April. But yeah, okay. All right. All right. Let's get the books for the week then, shall we? So, Absolute Batman issue 1, Scott Snyder writing with Nick Dragotta on the art. So this is a heftier book. I don't know if this is going to be every issue is going to be this page count, or if this is just a special issue 1, kind of like kickoff thing. Yeah. But heftier page count. And we get introduced to a Batman as well as some other prominent characters in Batman lore. We get our version of Alfred here, our version of Gordon, our version of whoever else, and kind of like how things are a little bit different in this new universe, right?
The absolute universe, right? That's
and it's so funny though, because obviously we compared this to the Ultimate Universe when they announced all this stuff. But I have to admit, it did sort of remind me of reading some Ultimate Spider-Man. Not in it's similar to that book, but just in the sense of I'm like, oh, there's this kind of sense of discovery of like, okay, how's everything different here? How's it working here?
Yeah, you see the phrase Mayor Gordon, and you're like, oh, okay, that's different.
Yeah.
And you're kind of just along for the ride. So I just looked. Absolute Batman 2 is only 32 pages, so
that's normal.
That's a normal run. So yeah, this was just exercised number 1 issue.
Yeah. I thought this was pretty good.
It was, so not that I was dreading it, right? But I kind of I'm a bit head shy when it comes to Snyder Batman, right? Rightfully so. But I went in with open mind. And when I was reading it, I was like, "Is this my new favorite kind of Batman?" Because you can't, in a way, Snyder could, because Batman, this character, but this Batman's hands are kind of tied behind his back by his differing, presence in Gotham and origin and whatnot. So this is a very rough and tumble, scraping by style of Batman. And that's one I can't remember ever reading. So the fact that it makes that feel fresh, while also it feels very much like Batman that we're familiar with. So it gets that balance down really well, even in this first issue.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to agree that I don't think we've ever read a scraping by Batman. That has definitely happened at some point in the comics, but I mean, it's interesting getting all the lore here. They do kind of a fake out at the start where there's someone on a bike, and you're like, oh, this must be Bruce, this must be Batman. And then you find out, no, it's actually Alfred, who's like an assassin in this universe, working for a mysterious, like, organization, a force of some kind who's sending him on missions. And he's here in Gotham, and he hates being in Gotham. But he's here because there's this gang who are getting really violent and doing a lot of brutal stuff. They're burning down orphanages. They're burning down all sorts of things. They're just killing people in the streets. Yeah, and they're wearing these black, like, primate masks, and they call themselves the Party Animals. And they seem like a threat. Like Pete just said, they're burning down orphanages, and like they're setting buildings on fire and shooting the people coming out and stuff. And it sets the tone that this Gotham is much more brutal than a Gotham that we're used to. It's much darker. It feels a lot more violent and visceral, and people are scared to even walk in the streets and that kind of thing. And of course, Alfred's going to cross paths with Batman at some point. In fact, they even tease it here because whoever he's talking to on the phone says that, there's another interested party who we think is circling the gang. And you're like, oh, that's Batman. Okay, right. Now we're getting to like where Batman's going to come into it. And an interesting bit of lore here that's introduced when we get introduced to Bruce, who's at the gym, Croc's gym, so it's Waylon Jones's gym, is that Bruce went to, well, I don't know, given the reveal at the end, I don't know if it's an orphanage, but he definitely went to school with a number of the villains. There's a photograph on the wall of him with Harvey, with Penguin, with Selina, with Riddler, and one more I'm forgetting.
Well, Croc's the other one.
And Croc,
they go way back. Yeah, so there's this picture, and the way that he mentions them is Harvey, Selina, Edward, Oswald.
Technically he says Eddie, he doesn't say Edward, because it took me a second. I'm like, wait, Eddie, who's Eddie? I had to think about it. I'm like,
so there's this familiarity that he almost has now more in common with these characters than Bruce Wayne in the past. Also, he went to school in Crime Alley, like that's where he grew up, and so he's again he's Batman from the bad part of town, right? But he's still very much Bruce Wayne in that, he seems to care about things outside of himself.
Yeah, and an interesting little detail here is Waylon's trying to get him to come to the poker game, so which implies that they're all on some level friends. Although it does kind of suggest that Penguin's already becoming something of a crime boss, and Bruce kind of references that Penguin is going to get himself into trouble, so clearly he's aware of what Penguin's up to. Also, Waylon tries to entice Bruce to come to the poker game by saying, hey, I'm even trying to get Selina to come. And Bruce sort of stands his ground and says he can, but that certainly does imply that, possibly since childhood, there has been a romantic interest between them.
Between the two of them.
Yeah. So
also it's one of these things too where, Bruce is this big hulking menace of a guy, and he knocks down one of Croc's punching bags. Right, and he says, "I'll charge you for it," and he gives him the numbers, right? And we're predisposed to think, "Oh, it's Bruce Wayne; he'll just pay for a new gym." And he's like, "Well, and the way that Bruce reacts is like, I don't have that kind of money." He's like, "Well, then stop destroying my bags." Again, there was another little piece in the character right there.
Well, I think what's more interesting to me here is that, okay, so it sounds like Penguin is becoming Penguin. From what we've not even met him yet, but from the sounds of it here, it sounds like he's becoming what we think of as the Penguin. But the other characters, like, okay, Waylon's holding like a crocodile on his arms, like he's going to start a thing for endangered species or exotic species or whatever. But it does make me question though, like, are some of these other characters, like, is there something to be said that in this world where Bruce is already in their lives, where not all of them become the villains we think of them as? Now, admittedly, I suspect that no matter what, they're all going to become kind of what we think of them as. Like, obviously, Selina's already got the cat ears in that photo, which is already part of her personality. But I suspect eventually we're going to see that Edward is the Riddler in some form or another, that Harvey is going to become Two-Face in some form or another. But it is interesting to think that it seems like this relationship with Bruce means that they've not went down the exact path that they did the first, the path that we're used to seeing them take.
Right.
You know, the fact that they're all friends to start with is interesting to me.
And I wonder if that's going to make them more allies, right? And this is kind of his de facto Bat family.
Oh, you sweet summer and ignorant slut. No, the point of this, Matt, is to make it more tragic when he has to take on like Two-Face, because they've been friends since kids. This is to break your heart, Matt. This is not to build.
Yeah,
like,
I don't.
Like Catwoman, sure, she'll probably become an ally because she usually does.
That's normal. But
some of these other ones, no. This is here to break your heart more when he has to fight them.
Yeah, see, let me be the Superman hope here, that so you can get the full experience of what Darkseid wants, right?
Look, I'm just telling you, this is writing 101. This is to create drama later. I promise you. So we see the people that are behind the party animals take out the previous mob bosses. So we've got a Maroni and a Falcone, and I don't even know what these bosses are, because the kid's got like tentacles or like.
Yeah, I don't know who they are, but it's definitely Black Mask because he calls him Roman, right?
Wait, who calls who Roman actually? Is Roman one of the crime bosses, or is Roman the guy with the mask on?
No, that's his name, right? Roman Sionis is Black Mask. So the guy with the big helmet on that looks like a big bowling ball.
Yes.
Right? He's wearing the red jacket. Because they asked him, are these one of your guys? Right, let me see. Says rumor, these guys are your guys.
No, I'm asking who calls who Roman, because I don't think I caught who was being referred to as Roman.
So the one lady that's getting out of the pool first calls him Ro, and then the tentacle, one of the tentacle people, says Roman, and he goes, "Hey kiddo," he goes, "When are you coming back to dance?" I think this is the one of the coolest introductions for this type, because it is Black Mask, where we see just how vicious he is.
Well, it's Black Mask, but he's got like this giant alien style head thing going on. Yeah. And then like his allies have got like purple like squid tentacles coming out of their head. Like I don't know what they're supposed to be, if they're like a parallel to something in the regular DCU that I haven't thought of. But regardless, this all like ends with them killing the crime bosses.
And the way that he does it is cool too, because he starts unveiling these death masks from historical figures. And he's like, I collect them, and then he shows the Maroni and the Falcone, two of their own people, like two family members, and you're just like, oh man, these guys are gonna get it.
Yeah. So it ramps up that even when Gordon's trying to make a speech, the people are yelling that the party animals are like, making them scared to go outside, yada yada. You see Batman put on his cowl, he's getting ready to take action. So the big set piece in the middle of the issue is this town hall meeting kind of thing where the public are yelling at Gordon, and notably a woman stands up and tries to speak reason and say, hey, this is what they want, is us all fighting and turning on each other. Remember her for later, right? Obviously at the time we didn't know who this was, but later on we're going to find out. It's kind of a big deal. So of course the party animals attack this, right? And they come in with their guns. We also meet Barbara here briefly. She's one of the uniformed cops that's working for, well, I guess she's not working for her dad, but she's she's working detail. And then the other one is Commissioner Bullock, right? That's right next to him. Did they say Commissioner?
I believe so.
I definitely caught Bullock. I don't know if I caught the word Commissioner at any point, but
later on they say Commissioner Bullock right there. So the lady that you said pay attention to later. It says just up to him or Commissioner Bullock. It's all up to up to all of us.
No, fair enough.
But then again, why is the commissioner in blues, right? Too.
Well, I think it's like a dress thing. Like he's there to in full regalia for a public appearance. I don't think that's necessarily what he's wearing like, normally every day, kind of thing. But yeah, so his daughter is a cop. And she's, concerned because Gordon like flies to take a bullet to protect either her or whoever like is around, because he's Jim Gordon. Damn it, doesn't matter what universe we're in. So they're kind of pinned down. These bad guys are here, and she actually goes up to the door to check who's like coming in from outside. And there's a whole army of these like party animals with these sort of demonic like masks on, right? I mean, they are like gorilla masks, but they're sort of gorillas that have been like the gorilla skulls that are black.
Yeah, that's why I said primate masks, right? Because they're not exactly, they're very ape-like.
Yeah, but anyway, Barbara's sticking her head out to see what's coming, and this is kind of her first glimpse of Batman proper. Is just his head like coming down from above, upside down, saying, "Whatever you do, don't open the door." So we get this huge set piece where they're all firing their guns at Batman. Big full page spread of him jumping down. And it all takes place on these big steps. Think the Rocky steps, right? For comparison. And you've got this army of these villains coming up. You've got Alfred as a sniper up in one of the rooftops saying, "Hey, this third party is here." In fact, actually, even before we get to that, there's a moment where he calls in, "Hey, these party animals are here," and they're basically going to massacre an entire like town hall full of innocent people. Permission to engage, and the people on the phone say, "No. Permission denied. You're just there to observe right now," which is why it's wild when Batman shows up that they say, "Hey, is the third party there? You can engage with him. If he's ruining like the intel you're getting by interfering, you can take on. But if you take on him, it's still going to affect everything else by I don't know.
Right, which definitely tells me there's something more sinister going on with this group.
Oh, for sure. Right? Yeah, I don't trust them.
Not at all. And also, Alfred has a kind of a Ra's al Ghul vibe going to him. The big mustache, the way his hair goes, definitely something that I noticed. It's definitely an alternate Alfred, right? So, and that goes with that group that whoever he's working with,
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I suspect that Alfred is going to end up working with Batman by the end of this arc, just because it makes sense to go that way. But yeah, so it's a nice big sort of epic moment here with all these criminals running towards Batman. There's that great panel on the next page where he's already taken out a fair amount of them, but there's more coming up the stairs. So Batman's just standing in the middle of these stairs with all these bodies lying behind him. It does a good job of making it seem pretty badass.
And this is a Batman that is using bladed weaponry, right? Because he's got batarangs, his bat ears come up and out, right? And he uses those like knives. And then
that's true. But Alfred does point out though, like because he's narrating this whole thing and sort of like giving his thoughts as he's watching Batman do all this. He says that, oh, this guy's focused, he's prepared, he's got a mission, and then the final thing he points out is, and also there's not a single fatality. Like whatever he's doing, he's being very careful, even with the blades, to not actually hit any arteries. So Alfred kind of deduces, oh, this guy's an idealist. This is kind of, like so an idealist, bloody hell. Like he's kind of in shock of what he's seeing. It really sells the idea of like how much of like a different force Batman is to compare to anything that's come before him. Like no one's prepared for Batman's existence, and Alfred's in shock at even seeing him operate like that. It really sells the impact of this being Batman's first big appearance to everyone,
Yeah. Well, and I like too that he says like, a leg stomped on so everyone hears the crack, an arm snapped over your knee.
Oh, he's putting on a show. He's making sure everyone knows that he's doing all this. Yeah.
So real cool. And then this big guy comes after him, and he's got it looks like a giant meat cleaver,
Yes. Also, he's pretty jacked as well. Look at that arm. He is
big, huge dude. And this is where we get the introduction of the axe, or what did we call it? The logo axe. I
mean, did we know about this before?
Yeah, so I had seen this. Someone had said, "Why does that look like because we talked about how kind of dumb the logo looks in Snyder." It was like, look, it detaches. It's an axe. I know you guys don't believe me, but when you read the book, it'll be there. And so I had known about this. You know, I didn't know it was gonna be this cool though, right? Where essentially this guy comes after him. Bruce puts, hooks it on. He pulls out of his utility belt a handle, and then the guy goes to attack him. He cuts off his arm. It's like, hey, you're gonna want to get to a doctor. There's one down the street. They'll see you right away. And again, showing that he's not trying to kill people, right? There's a message that he is sending. He's cleaning up Gotham.
Regular Batman would not be cutting off a hand. I'll tell you, like, this is definitely a Batman who's willing to be more violent, even if he's still not crossing the ultimate line. So, very much worth mentioning. Also, he has these spikes that come out of his back at one point when he's like ready to, go all full nuclear Batman. And he makes all the party animals run away, and Alfred criticizes him for oh, this guy's not that good. I had to set traps to capture the ones that are fleeing. And then just as he thinks that, an explosion goes off to stop all the people that are running away. And he's like, okay, fair enough. And Alfred is kind of stalling on even interacting with him. And it's not until after all this that he finally goes down and holds a gun to the back of Batman's head. And Batman just kind of quickly disarms him, spins round, kicks him. Not a big deal. And takes his shotgun away from him, which comes back up a little bit later as well. But, we see Bruce works construction. We see him a little bit at his day job.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
and this what I like, too, is that he's still very much Bruce Wayne, but instead of traveling the world and learning from all these different masters and whatnot, everything's very much in Gotham, right? He learns all these different disciplines about building the city, from engineering, chemistry, and this, that, and the other. So it very, very much shows someone that is, disciplined to their craft on trying to get better. And that he's worked his way up to like an engineer. So he's kind of responsible for what gets built. Not fully responsible, but he helps fix things that he is breaking, right? So like those stairs that he blew up, right? He's back and working on them like the next day to get them fixed.
Yeah, and most importantly, this is all coming again from Alfred's perspective. Alfred has very quickly figured out who Batman is and is following him around and kind of like keeping tabs on him. And he does point out that Bruce has intentionally gotten jobs at different sectors of the city to learn about the politics of the city, to learn about the infrastructure of the city, to learn about how the city works. Like, he's really kind of like studied Gotham in every facet. And he sees Batman go to the zoo to put down flowers, and it was hinted at the start, but so the backstory for Batman here is a little bit different. It's actually a mass shooter at a zoo when he was there in a school field trip, and his dad, Thomas Wayne, is a teacher, and he was the one that actually was taking the kids on the trip. So he actually locks all the kids in a room for safety and says, "Don't open the door, Bruce," and clearly that led to his demise. And that's kind of the origin story. And of course, you might be thinking, well, what about Martha? Where's Martha here? Which ultimately leads to the reveal that we get in the last few pages, which is that Martha is still alive. And Bruce is, meeting up with her at the end of the issue. And, that's your big reveal. And it plays nicely as well, because at the start of the issue, when Alfred get back in Gotham, he left a message for Julia to meet up, and right as he's seeing Bruce with his mother, he gets a text message from her saying, "I never contact me again." So it's really saying or pointing out this connection where he's going to see him have a good relationship with his mother, and maybe he'll see something in that, he will feel something for that because he can't have a good relationship with his daughter. And that may be like an emotional connection that maybe clouds a decision that he has to make at some point about, if he's told to take Batman out, maybe he'll think twice for one reason or another, and this may be part of it.
Yeah, I like that there, as it's going through it, right? You see Bruce talking to his mom and how he went and left a flower at the old zoo, and that Alfred's like, "I should have just killed him right there," and that's when he looks down and sees the message from Julia. It says, "Never contact me." He's like, "But you're just like an effing kid." And that's what makes him go. It's like, this guy is just trying to do right. Who am I to stop him? Kind of vibe, which I like, because it definitely shows that despite working for this organization that just told him to observe and stuff, it does seem like there's a bit of a conscience to Alfred already.
Yeah, because he even says, like, I should be killing him right now in front of her, but I can't. Like, he's just a kid. And like you say, that's when he gets the text message and kind of like reminds him of his own humanity. And maybe the reason why his daughter doesn't want to speak to him is because he is this cold, you know, assassin. Maybe, how much she knows about that, I mean, it's up for debate, but like, at the very least, maybe, even if she doesn't know the details of what he does, the type of person he probably is in general because of the work he does and the sort of detached, like, sort of personality he probably has.
Yeah, because there's this whole part in the beginning, a whole diatribe of how much he hates Gotham, right? And he goes to his favorite tea shop because the guy keeps the type of tea that he likes there. And Gotham might suck, but at least there's this guy. Oh, and while I'm here, I might as well talk to Julia. So he has a very difficult relationship there. And it wouldn't surprise me if it's because that's where his daughter is, right? And it's reminding him of all these, you know, kind of what could have been. And he has no control over that. And so here, when he sees this, where, you know, it's just a guy talking to his mom, he's kind of like, oh, okay, this is what humanity is.
Yeah, another detail actually on that bit at the start where he goes to the tea shop is he mentions that the guy running it's from wherever.
Kabul.
Yeah, there you go.
Which I think is in Afghanistan.
Yeah, and he mentions that, you know, he came to Gotham after the conflict in Kabul, and Alfred says that, oh, would he be as nice to me as he is if he knew that what I did during that conflict? And I think that idea of like seeing someone on the other side of the conflict and maybe him reflecting on that is another reason why he's ultimately going to do something different with Batman. So, the next bit is a confrontation where Alfred like sneaks up on him at where Batman's operating out of, which is actually the top of one of the buildings that he's been working on, because Bruce knows that these don't really get used, so it's kind of a smart thing. Batman's expecting him though, and ends up firing his own shotgun back at him, which obviously was a bit of a shock to the system to see that, but of course immediately Alfred's narration points out, oh, he like modified my shotgun to be non-lethal. In fact, you actually see him when he gets up, he's got lots of little batarangs sticking out of his face, which is kind of funny actually.
I love he says that he made it worse, right? That was a good laugh.
Yeah. And then Batman just rides a bike off the edge of this building, and Alfred's like, where the hell's that asshole going to land? And then he did a big 2-page spread with a title card of Batman, like, you know, just flying over, you know, in front of the moon on his bike. But there's a little epilogue page, though, which is important. Not just, so one of the things that was hinted at earlier on is that Alfred was pissed for another reason for being back in Gotham, is that he was tracking down a target in, I think, Singapore, and the Philippines, and he's pissed that he get pulled off of it, and the final page actually indicates who that target was, because the company that he works for has lost him, they don't know where he is, but we get introduced to him here at the end. It's someone, you know, you can't make jokes around him because, you know, he never laughs, he's super rich, filthy rich, but people call him the Joker, because he never laughs at anything ever. So we have a Joker in this universe who does not joke and does not laugh.
And a Batman that memes. So, you know.
Yes. Well, it's interesting, though, that they've essentially given Joker Bruce Wayne's wealth.
Yep.
Because that's kind of...
And somewhat of his origin, too, because when he tracks him down, he tracked him to Ducard, right, 5 years ago.
That's right, yeah, they mentioned Ducard, yeah.
He'd killed Ducard, and then the League of Assassins, and they were all dead. And so the fact that this version of Joker took out the League of Assassins, right, and he seems to be just some rich guy, it's like, what is going on there?
Yeah, I mean, who knows what motivated that? Because the first instinct is like, oh, he's a rich villain, that makes you think of Lex Luthor, but... Yeah, specifically those little details there about going after Ducard after training with him, and even just like this final, because you can sort of tell he's really vaguely Joker shaped. He's got that kind of skinny face. He's in shadow, but it does make me go, oh, I wonder how he ends up putting on the makeup. Like, how does he get to that point, or fall in the vat of chemicals if that's what we're doing? You know, whatever the path to full Joker is. Interesting, though, that he is kind of a separate character. Now, I wonder if the thing that's still true, though, in this universe, I wonder if it's still a thing where he is influenced because he sees Batman. Like, does seeing Batman operate, is that what makes him go, oh, I have to be more theatrical, I have to put on a show?
Because he's on that path, right? You don't go and train with Ducard for no reason, right?
Here's a thought. Right, you know how Batman... Now, it doesn't seem to be the case in this universe, because Batman, or as a kid, Bruce Wayne seemed to like bats, based on what we hear. because he made like diagrams out of bat wings or whatever they said about his backstory. But usually Batman has to overcome his fear of bats because, like, I have to like master my own fears so that I can use fears against my enemies, blah, 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 blah. Usually that's the sort of thing, right? What if what they're going for here is the idea that the Joker has to get over his, like, lack of a sense of humor to become the character that can do what he's trying to do. Whatever that is. I mean, I don't know what he's trying to do. Who knows what his motivation is? Yeah,
what if he's like that, that famous quip about Pagliacci? Sad clown goes in there. Doctor tells him you got to find the funniest clown, Pagliacci. He goes, that's the problem, Doc. I am Pagliacci. What if it's something like that, where he's just, there's nothing left for him. He has no meaning. And then he sees this Batman trying to fix the city, and then that's what gets it. He's like, you're not going to do this on my watch type deal. Because I feel like that's the one thing with Batman and Joker that's always there. It gets boiled down to the Heath Ledger Joker going, kill you, what would I do without you? What if this Batman gives this Joker's life meaning and, they start the dance then? Very curious. I think this was an enjoyable read. It flowed very well. The new characterizations were interesting to discover and kind of figure out the new spins on things. Setting up some of the villains being like childhood friends of Bruce's, setting up this weird different version of the Joker. But I think what I liked about it most was just how like dark and hard hitting it was. The fact that the villains are a gang who are just straight up massacring people and trying to commit mass shootings and burning down orphanages and like killing people as they exit the buildings. It feels a lot more just straight up evil than anything typical comic book villains actually do. Yeah, it felt like the beginning of Assault on Precinct 13, right? With the ice cream truck and all that. Oh, sure, yeah. A very, very different, more brutal world that they're all existing in. So, yeah, actually, the super gang from Assault on Precinct 13 is kind of what this Party Animals gang is. They're just this ultra-violent, murderous group who just keep doing it, and everyone has to be terrified of them. And then there's a hint, too, that, Bruce is looking at the masks, and before Alfred busts in on him, he's making a recording to himself talking about, he's looked in there, there's some kind of technology also at play, right? So I'm wondering if there's, like, I'm not saying Mad Hatter exactly, but something similar, like the control. Yeah, I can see that. That's at play there. So, so there's something else going on with them. Maybe it's unlocking the worst parts of them, right? So they're still doing this. They're not under mind control or whatever, because that would also make sense in this world. Tapping into the worst parts of people. Yeah. Maybe there's some sort of someone pulling the strings in a more literal way than just the boss giving orders, but. I think the new character dynamics are interesting. I think the new world itself is pretty interesting. As far as like intriguing as to where it's going to go with all these characters, it was enjoyable discovering what they all were here. Will that keep up as the book goes on? We'll find out. It's hard to say right now. Art though, which we've not mentioned too much other than a couple of specific panels, is mostly pretty great. There's the odd, like Bruce when he goes to see his mum, like in that page, like he's got kind of a weird little nose, like which I guess is just the style of the artist. But yeah, sometimes it delves into some kind of anime face or like manga kind of over stylized. Yeah, there's a little bit parts, of that. But for the most part it works. Like. All the stuff that's done with Alfred going back, well, not going back, but stuff from the past that he's found out about Bruce and everything's kind of done with that watercolor fadedness. Everything through there looks great. Yeah, I mean, the big set piece in the middle, which is the town hall stuff that leads to the big fight on the staircase in front of the building, all of that is excellent. Like the layouts there, the build up, it feels like an epic action fight. It feels like something you'd get in the middle of a John Wick movie or something like that. Feels like a big mission statement for Batman, and the art is a big part of that. And of course it does the thing when he cuts off the hand of like doing the completely red panel with just the black silhouette of the arm flying off. Now, admittedly, part of that's probably to keep it at the teen rating, because anything more visual might got them bumped up to the mature, but it is effective though. It gives you this fun comic book kind of feel to it. So
No, and it feels like a big deal having Bruce and Alfred meet. You know, like you get kind of excited about them interacting and like what effect they might have on each other by like having that relationship form out of a completely new situation than it did in the original universe. So yeah, no, I mean, solid start. I mean, these absolute books, so they've started, and this was the one that I was the most apprehensive about, I guess I'll say, the bunch. So off to a good start.
So I didn't realize that Nick Dragotta is the guy that was doing East of West, which was a book that came out years ago on Image, and the art was always a highlight. Yeah. I didn't realize that was the same guy. It's been a while.
Who wrote East of West again?
God, was it Hickman?
I think it was Hickman. Yeah,
I think it was Hickman. But yeah, I pulled him up on here, and yeah, that was the first thing that came up was East or West. So I was like, oh, shoot. But yeah, the art's pretty good. Yeah, it's a bit over stylized at point, but I think that drives the point home. Like you were talking about the action sequences and all that other stuff. You know, the super jacked Batman against that party animal guy, right? They both look like they're hooked up on Venom. So
yeah, no, it flows very well. I mean, my issue is mostly just if I have any issues, and they're fairly minor, it is just about maybe some of the regular human faces sometimes. Yeah. Do divulge into, like, say, that manga kind of look, which I'm less fond of. But other than that, everything's pretty solid, and its use of like I say, doing the full color backgrounds. Like I mentioned, the arm being cut off, but even when like Bruce fires the shotgun. And like you see like an explosion basically coming out of that thing, and the background's all orange. It does a good job of making it feel like big action scenes. So no, very good. Matt, what are you rating Absolute Batman?
I'm gonna give this it's hard to give it a half point, call it solid, but this is an 8.5.
Yeah, I'm kind of dancing around that as well. I'm almost tempted to give it the 9, to be honest. I was kind of really into it. But I'm going to agree with the 8.5, just for that nitpick on the art. But the art is very good. I don't want to make it sound like the art's not great, because the art is great. It's just one thing's not quite to my taste, and that's maybe just a slight nitpick on it. But all right, very good, very good. Action Comics 1070, Mark Waid writing with Clayton Henry on the art. At least for the main story. We'll get to the backup a little bit later.
So more Clayton Henry with this character design. I thought it was very funny.
I mean, I was looking forward to this because it's Mark Waid on Superman, right? This is the start of this, what's going to be a 12-issue run that's going weekly. So Action Comics is going to be weekly for the next 12 weeks. And we're getting, 12 issues of Mark Waid doing this Phantom Zone story, but we're also going to get 12 issues of the backup by Mariko Tamaki doing the Supergirl story. And Supergirl's also in the main story as well. So
Superman puts her over huge in this one.
Features quite heavily here. So the gist of this story is that something, right? I'll explain what it is in a second, but something breaks out of the Phantom Zone projector, right? That's how the issue starts. But when we actually get a look at it, it's like 3 Kryptonians that have all like merged together into some Lovecraftian body horror nightmare. Like that's where we go from here, and then obviously they eventually attack Metropolis, which is when Superman gets involved. I mean, I say attack, they fly through a building because it doesn't seem like they know what they're doing, to be honest. But they're dangerous.
They're just kind of like a berserker, right? Just going around. They have no idea what to do. They have the Kryptonian powers on Earth, and they're screaming something in the Kryptonian language, and it's like Superman is like, it's like fighting 3 Kryptonians at once, So I just want to point out that Clayton Henry is on the art, and so found a way to do 3 foreheads on this creature, right? Because it's didn't have him joined at the forehead.
To be fair, I don't think Henry's faults are as on display in this issue as much as they normally are. Admittedly, I do really like the coloring on this book. I think the colorist is very good. They kind of like the idea that some colors are muted, but then you've got like the outfit on Superman or the green on Jimmy popping quite a bit. Actually looks quite nice. like that stuff's good, and obviously Superman runs into Jimmy at the start, which is what he's doing when this force of nature just goes through a building, and Superman has to go and deal with it. And yeah, this thing, this three Kryptonians that have all fused. They're fused kind of all the way down the front of their body, but the way it looks when we see it is that it's kind of like none of them have a chin, because where their chin's supposed to be is where the top of the other person's mouth is. Imagine that going three ways.
Yeah, you're spot on when you called it Lovecraftian there.
Yeah,
like you can't tell where one ends and the other begins at a certain point. It's just three, and all the limbs are just flying around. It's just like a jumble of not humanity, but kryptonanity, whatever that would be called.
Yeah, in fact, Superman's getting his ass kicked a little bit. He gets pinned into the water because it's basically three Kryptonians on one, and it's Supergirl who flies in and sort of like hits them off. That gives they have a fighting chance with two of them. But even then, like there's still it implies some time passes where they're fighting them, but constantly having to like go and save civilians who are in the path of carnage or whatever. So we get this big action set piece, and two things come from it. The first one being that Superman lets Supergirl fight on her own for a bit because he has to go and fetch some gold kryptonite. He's got one canister of gold kryptonite, which will completely take away the powers of a Kryptonian. And he admits in his narration that he is terrified of this existing because him or Kara could really, just lose their powers forever if they ever get exposed to it. But it's kind of like, what else can they really do at this point? Because this thing's so powerful. Like taking away the powers is the first thing they can do to try and make everything safe. And it ends up being Jimmy. This is the second thing I was getting to. Is Jimmy has a big hero moment where he like gets the canister, and which in a weird way is safer for everyone because it won't affect him. But yeah, he basically blasts them with the gold kryptonite, which immediately makes this I don't even know what you call it. This mutated.
Tumbleweed of Kryptonian flesh.
Yeah, Cryptrilogy. There you go. That's what I'm calling it.
That's a good one.
Cryptrilogy. There you go. They just fall out of the sky as soon as Jimmy hits them with the gold kryptonite. And they start saying something as they're there. And what really sold it to me is this Lovecraftian body horror. Is that they say something in Kryptonian, and Jimmy says, "Oh, what were they saying in there?" And I love the panel. It's maybe my favorite panel in the issue of Kara just looking sad, saying, "They said kill us." Like the sadness of them just being like they want to die because what they are is like so horrific, and they have no control over what they're doing. They don't want to live like this. It's actually really sad.
Yeah, it's nothing but pain, and even Clark can notice that on them. That's why they're moving around. They're moving in bursts because that's the they must be in so much pain. And I thought that panel specifically with Kara really drove home all of that. And it's also they do a lot of fun setup Waid does with the signal watch, right? When the first time you see Jimmy, he's hanging upside down, and Clark comes down, he gets in front of the picture, and he's taking pictures of a corrupted politician. And Clark kind of gives him the business. He's like, "Hey man, this is not safe up here." He goes, "Yeah, that's what I got the signal watch for." So as Jimmy has the gold kryptonite, he ends up getting the Cryptrilogy's attention with the signal watch, and they start coming towards him, and that's how I thought that was a lot of fun too, because the way that he goes, "Okay, on 5," and he goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then he does it. And I thought, just Waid having strength of character already.
Superman and Supergirl can't even help them because they're too busy holding up a bridge that's going to collapse if they don't, and they're struggling at this point because they've been fighting this thing for so long. So we cut to a big meeting that they have with everyone else. Well, I'll say everyone else. You got John, you got Connor and Keenan and Natasha. Lois is there as well, and Superman and Supergirl spoke to the inhabitants of the bottled Candor City about all this, and they basically say that ever since they were awoken from their slumber, which happened during Absolute Power, the Phantom Zone, like their connection to it's been severed. Like the readings are kind of like not coming back to them. That they can't keep an eye on it anymore. So Superman's plan is to go into the Phantom Zone and find out what's going on in there, because if this happened to some of them, even though they're all criminals, even though they were put in there, and it even brings up like did Jor-El ever even like think of the ethical implications of this place and putting prisoners there? Maybe that was a bad idea. Maybe this place is what's doing it to them. And if they're suffering like this, if they're being fused together against their will, then he has to go in and do something about it. He has to know. Well, he has to at least know if that's happening, and if it is, then they have to do something about it. So he's going in. Lois obviously scared about it. Clark's even scared about it. She kind of says, "Hey, I know you're scared about this, so I'm scared about this." So he promises to come back, and it's a whole thing. And the final page of the story, as he's saying he'll be okay, is like 4 Kryptonian villains all waiting with big cannons, just waiting for him to arrive because they're expecting him. Which kind of makes me think that maybe some of the villains just did this to the others as a trap. Like they did this to their fellow prisoners, which is horrific in its own right. So it's not like there's some weird thing going on inside the Phantom Zone necessarily that's doing this. There's some sort of force. It's just the other prisoners did this to them as a trap.
Yeah, you put all the worst people in Krypton in one place and expect them not to learn new things, you know? But that's the other thing that they mentioned too, that because they came out through an old Phantom Zone projector.
Yes.
And so part of the reason why Superman has to go in there is because if they can get out like that, he's got to find a way to stop that, you know, or else it's just going to be a forever, you know, a revolving door out of the Phantom Zone.
That was the first reason, but then it kind of became the more moral one, which is that, you know, he has to sort of help them if this is happening to them. Yeah, and like I say, I was just guessing there. I could be wrong. There might actually, I mean, it might both be that the people in the Phantom Zone hate him and want to kill him, but also this thing did happen naturally. Well, maybe not naturally, but not by their hands.
Right. And that's the thing that I like that someone points out to him too, is like, you are, you know, the son of their jailer, right? Like if you go in there, it's going to be real heavy. You know, are you sure you can handle it? So that the moral implications there too, that, you know, only Clark is the one that has the kind of fortitude to withstand this kind of stuff. It's Waid is really going out of his way to write this noble Superman.
Yeah. No, liking the characterization, liking everything here. I also think this, as far as Clayton Henry goes, I do think this is maybe the best art I've seen from him. Yeah. I'm not saying that you never see the thing I don't like with him with the long forehead. There is a few panels here or there, but it's not constant like it usually is. Like it really isn't. It's actually pretty good for the most part.
Seems to have the proportions down. There's the one with Superman right before he goes into the Phantom Zone that the spit curl is kind of covering it up, but without the spit curl to, you know, cover it up, he definitely has a 5 head there. So, you know, but that's also part of the charm of Henry's art, right? You know, that it is good enough, and I'll deal with some of the stuff that we joke about, but it never fully detracts me from enjoying whatever I'm reading.
Yeah, no. So yeah, but you know, the point is though, better than normal. Like I was worried. I thought I would be more annoyed at it than I am, and it ended up being quite pleasant for the most part. So, credit where credit's due. Solid start to the story. Intrigued, you know, is this going to be him trapped in the Phantom Zone for most of the 12 issues with the others on the outside trying to help from there, or is it going to be more of an in and out kind of thing? Like, but either way, it's a fun premise to start off with, and the idea that they're dealing with something where, Jor-El might have done something bad here by even making this prison in the first place, so dealing with some of the consequences of that is quite interesting from a character perspective. So that is cool. The backup, though, to get to that, the Tamaki backup with Supergirl. So I was really confused for the first few pages of this because I'm like, wait, what's going on here? So Kara's men in blacking people that she's talking to, and by that I mean she's wiping their memories of like the previous few minutes of, you know, whatever they were talking about. She's got like a therapist that she's seeing, and then raises her mind, right? And I'm going to sneeze. There you go. She does that, right? And you know, it's a bit unclear what happened there, and it's not until the next scene with Steel where it kind of like does it, and you see more of it, where this, you know, pink glow comes from her eye, and basically she makes Steel forget that he helped build her a ship or whatever to leave the planet. She's going on a journey, and notably though, we do find out that this is a journey that, well, she's keeping it secret from everyone else and wiping their memories. Superman put her on this mission. Like, there's a mission here that she's been given. It's going to be a lonely mission that you can only trust with her, and she's going to go off and do this. Now, yeah, this is kind of interesting, and I saw some debate online as to whether or not does she just have a new power, or is this like tech that she's using to achieve the memory wipes?
If it's a new power, whose could it be, right? Because we know that there's a bit of a shakeup after Absolute Power, right?
Yeah, she could have got it from someone else after Absolute Power. That's very true.
But whose power is this?
I'm
not familiar with it.
Just to point out, though, if this is a power she got because of the end of Absolute Power, she still has all of her regular powers. I did not get the implication that someone could get multiple people's powers at the end of that. I thought it would be, if you got a new one, it's because someone else got yours.
Yeah, no, that makes sense too.
So I don't know.
Yeah, this feels more like what's going on in Power Girl with the Kryptonian AI chasing Paige around. This felt very on brand with that. So it's definitely weird. There's something going on with Kara, but I can't put my finger on it because there's an opening page here that looks just like an eye with circuitry in it, right?
Yes. Which does make you think it's actually like a contact lens that's fancy that's in her eye or something like that. Yeah, and then you see it again when she is talking to Power Girl, and Power Girl tries to stop her from leaving, and Kara's like, you have got no choice. And then you get that page where they're firing their heat vision at each other, and you see again the circuitry of the eye. So it's the whole thing. She knocks Power Girl out, gets in the ship that was built for her, and the end of the backup is just her flying off, and you just get a sort of glimpse of this energy floating in space with kind of a cube around it. And that's where she's going, seemingly. What is it? Why is she going there? What's the threat? I don't know.
Yeah.
What I will say, though, is Skylar Partridge did the art for this, and I really liked the art.
Yes.
I thought Kara in her, her modern, I don't even know what, biker outfit, whatever we're calling this version of this.
Yeah, just the jacket look.
Yeah. It has that kind of... because it was Joel Jones who did Being Super.
But it feels very much like Joel Jones.
It does. It reminds me a lot of the art in Being Super, which is not a bad thing because I really like that Tamaki story.
Yeah.
I think the line works great. I think the hair flows really well. It's just constantly very nice to look at, and it's good with the expressions as well. Because after she wipes Steele's mind, like Natasha walks in and goes, "Hey, you okay?" And he looks all kind of confused, and he's like, something's up. Can we check the stocks take for recently? He's probably going to find out that he used a bunch of resources to build something.
Yeah.
And not know
I do
why.
like that John Henry does feel like there's something going on, but he can't quite put his finger on it.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, I will say I do miss Supergirl having a cape. It does feel missing for me. Like you can put Connor and John and like these outfits, but I don't know. I feel like Supergirl should have kind of a equality with Superman's outfit in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
but that's what it is. So yeah, I mean I don't know. I thought maybe you'd come in here with a hot take and be like, I know what this thing is at the end. I recognize this from Action Comics 592 or whatever it is.
Yeah. No, but it definitely feels like an Uncharted thing because even the title of this part of the story is called "Where Are You Going?" Right? So I feel like it's like this Uncharted Superman sending her to check up on something. And again, is this a piece of technology that he provided her with too? Like where did this new thing come from? I feel like that's going to be a crux of it as well.
Yeah. Is this thing going to end up tying into the Phantom Zone story? It doesn't seem like it. But it is possible, though, that this mission he gave her was right before he had that meeting with everyone else. This could end up tying into that somehow.
Yeah.
Like, is this, like, physically where the Phantom Zone is?
Oh. So maybe this is his, like, plan B?
Yeah,
right? He can't get back out. He's sending Kara in that direction.
No, it may not connect to that story. I'm just spitballing because it's so mysterious right now.
I could definitely see it.
Yeah. Yeah, curious. Like this is like where the Phantom Zone, you can access it more physically rather than like through your magic But I know it's a different dimension technically, but maybe it's like some sort of gateway naturally occurring in space.
The way that I always thought about it, it's a space between space, right? Because that's like where Prometheus was using it back in the 2000s. I think he called it the ghost realm or something close to it, but it made it always seem to me like it was space between space. So maybe we can't access it physically without the projector, and that's
yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. That's where I'm looking. I'm looking at the solicits down farther, and there's no tells down the way that if it's going to cross over or not. I would
probably stay away from those anyway, especially since it's a weekly book. You could spoil like almost every issue by looking at solicits for later ones.
Yeah, no, but I was just saying, like, if there's any tells of, oh, this is where if it crosses over, or if it's just purely standalone, But as I was reading, it looked like it was purely standalone because it wasn't giving each of the Supergirl story things was like a sentence, But yeah, so very, very good. Yeah, no, Skylar Patridge, very, very good. I'm trying to remember where I've seen her art. I think it was in Wonder Woman, but it's always very strong, and it is very reminiscent of Joelle Jones. It's that the heavy ink work, and just the, I'm trying to say that kind of classic character designs, right? Because at times I felt like I was reading Being Super. Very similar. Her Kara and Joelle Jones's Kara, very similar. But yeah.
Yeah, it felt like home. Looking at Kara looking like this.
Yes.
So, yeah. All right, what are you giving Action Comics?
I'm going to give us an 8.
Yeah, I think I gotta go 8.5 again. I really like this. I think the start with this weird mutated Lovecraftian batch of Kryptonians was an interesting sort of kickoff to a story. Superman having a mission is quite clear, and trusting the rest of the family is kind of cool. To sort of like hold the fort down. Yeah, I did see someone online complain that like, are we forgetting that the 2 kids exist? And I'm sure they'll come back up at some point. But is Waid going to do something with them? Maybe not. Maybe Wade's got nothing he wants to do with them. But
yeah. But it made it a big deal that Kara was the one that had to deal with things while Superman was gone, right? Like, that's why she comes in first, because he mentions, John and Connor and Keenan aren't quite up to par like Kara is. So you wouldn't bring the kids around that, right? They're still little.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see. Anywho, Batman and Robin 14, Legacy number 80. Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Javier Fernandez on the art. So again, this is the start of a new run, new team on this book. Williamson gone, Johnson in. That's interesting in and of itself. So I thought this was pretty good. It was pretty solid. I liked the art quite a bit. I liked the action, the layouts, like made the act. Like, there's a car chase early on that was really, really fun. The sort of build up to the villain from someone from 1892, which I like. I'm going to assume this is a reference from something from like Batman R.I.P. or more specifically when Wayne was going through time afterwards. I could be wrong, but that's my assumption. Because I don't remember the character from then, but I assume it is. But yeah, super creepy. You get this kind of like, again, kind of a cult type thing where a cult's worshipping him and like expecting it'll come back. So I like those creepy vibes. I will say it does feel like Damian is kind of like regressed like immediately. It's almost like we always do this where when a writer's done with Damian and they have him go through a bit of a change where he grows up a little bit or softens up a little bit, the new writer comes on and he's back to being like at his most Damian again, where he's been a little shit and he just wants to go patrol. He doesn't want to go to the dumb party that Bruce wants to go to, even though it's going to like help fund medical research or whatever it is. So yeah, it feels like Damian's regressed a little bit, which is not to say that I didn't enjoy some of his back and forth. The idea that he says something kind of shitty about Thomas Wayne and then Bruce is like, oh, we're going to have a talk about that later. I did think it was an interesting beat to play. So
yeah, because we never really get that, right? We always get that Damian is Talia's son, right? And we talked about that grandpa. We never really gotten like Damian giving takes on the Waynes. So I thought that was interesting for sure.
Yeah, because Bruce keeps saying, or people keep saying to Bruce and Damien, "Oh, your father would be proud of what you're doing tonight, Bruce." And Damien kind of like, "I never met him." He basically just says that I never met him.
Yes,
I don't care. But yeah, opening action scene in the cars is very good. Batman and Robin are jumping from these different bad guys' cars. The cars are going to blow up. So their whole thing here is actually to grapple all of the villains that are in the cars and have them all dangling off this bridge, so that when the cars go off and blow up, they're all dangling safely away from it. So it's a really fun action set piece. It really just feels like a nice big introduction to the start of the whole thing. But yeah, like I say, it all revolves around this gala that's happening. Damien doesn't want to go. Batman insists that he has to, and the patrolling is not the only way that Batman and Robin can help the city. So we get grumpy Damien throughout. We get this idea that people are starting to hate Bruce and see him as interfering as a rich guy, because he's doing up parts of the neighborhood. He's fixing things. He introduces a doctor that worked with his dad, who's going to be running this new medical facility that he's all funding with all these other rich people. So yeah, there's a bunch of setup, which I'm sure they're going to get to. There's also a couple of scenes where Damien is putting up with a little girl who comes up to talk to him. I get the impression she is younger than him, so it's not like she's flirting with him necessarily. It's more just that she's a young kid who's very eager to talk about
she's precocious.
Stuff. Yeah. And Damien is basically, well, he makes her cry. Let's just say it.
Yeah.
He straight out makes her cry.
Which isn't the first time. This is like the Damien special. He's going to talk down to people. He doesn't care how old they are.
Yes. So eventually bad guys show up and take some people hostage outside, and Bruce has to run down and try and deal with it, and he doesn't have time to get into outfit, so his whole idea here is just to cut the power so that he's operating in shadows. So, but I actually really like the art in that page. Like, see when you see him come for the punch, and it's like a POV shot from the criminal, and it's just the silhouette and the eyes are white. Nice stuff. The action in this is very, very good.
Well, and just these cult members, right, wearing all the masks, they look so creepy because of the way that the shadows are hitting the eyes, right? And then so their eyes are void of anything, but then when you see him come through with that punch, the eyes are lit up white, right? So it really shows the difference there. So I thought that was a lot of fun storytelling there with the art.
Yeah, and then the big sort of thing that's building up to is that the cult wanted in here because down in the basement area there's a furnace where this villain who I think they call him Memento Mori.
Yes.
And he's sort of up. He looks very obviously he's got a mask on, but otherwise he's got a very sort of Jack the Ripper outfit. And he's doing some rhyming to be very ominous. And as he's monologuing to Batman, you see the fires spreading to other parts of the building, and there's an explosion, and Damien's thrown off his feet, and that's the cliffhanger of the issue. I liked the build up to the villain. I really liked. I also really liked the action and the art and the layouts to it. The Damien stuff was a bit more mixed because it does feel like he's kind of regressed to being, I mean, not even like Damien at the start of this book, more Damien from 10 years ago.
Yeah, like Batman and Son Damien.
Yeah. Well, that was 20 years ago, Matt.
Oh God, stop with the numbers.
Oh, okay, almost 20 years ago. It's almost.
Yeah, but you're rounding up. It still hurts.
Yeah,
it doesn't make it hurt any less.
Yeah. I mean, 10 years ago, we're only 2 years away from Rebirth, Matt. Just let that sink in.
I don't like it. Stop it.
Yeah.
I thought it was fine. Definitely first issue stuff. I knowing that it's Philip Kennedy Johnson, I'm wondering what this old man has to deal with that god.
I don't get the impression this is going to tie into that, but who knows? It's entirely possible. It is interesting seeing a very different part of the universe under Johnson. We'll see how that goes. It's almost like everyone has to try a Bat book at some point. Yeah, and maybe this will probably end up being his best-selling book just because it's a Batman book. But yeah, it's not a complete home run of a first issue. I definitely am interested in reading more of it. I'm game. I'm on board. And in fact, it was the only issue I read this week that was a normal length. Everything else was oversized in some way.
Yeah.
So it felt like a breeze to read compared to everything else, just because of the page count, if nothing else. But no, a lot of positives. Really, like, intrigued by the villain build up and lots of great art and action sequences. It just just the characterization of Damien just felt like it was missing a step a little bit, and I wonder if that's just growing pains, or if we just have to get used to this is how Johnson's going to rate Damien. Like, he's regressed a bit. It feels especially weird because it feels like ever since post Alfred's death, we can't. It feels weird to go back to a time before that, because it feels like a pivotal point in his life that he can't really go past again.
Yeah, it's a new what's that called? Like not a guidepost, but yeah, that's in the development of Damien. We're past the spoiled, insolent kind of kid, and now we're kind of like he can talk back to Bruce and stuff, but in that teenage way that doesn't feel like he's just being a little shitty kid.
Yeah, but. Like I say, art's great. Those pages towards the end of Bruce going into the furnace area and it's all on fire, and then the villain standing there. I think the art there is gorgeous. Yeah. I really can't overstate it. So, really good stuff here by and large. And just the build up where, like, he's fighting the bad guys, and as he makes his way down to this basement area, you just start to get a little bit of that orange glow. So the coloring sort of teases that there's fire down there. It really feels like he's descending into hell in a lot of ways. So, yeah, really nice stuff. Yeah. All right, Matt, what are you giving Batman and Robin?
I'm rating this a 7.5.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that as well. I think it's good, but maybe not quite hitting great. So, there you go. 7.5 for me, too. All right. Green Lantern Civil Corps Special Issue 1. Jeremy Adams and Philip Kennedy Johnson writing with Salvador Larroca on the art. So, I hate to start off in the negative here, right? Because I have a lot of good things to say about this. I really like this special, right? I love what they're doing in the Green Lantern corner of the universe. I love that John and Hal's stories are kind of like merging together, and we're seeing kind of some stuff that we built up in War Journal become a major factor in the ongoing Green Lantern saga. That's all cool. LaRocca's art, though, is where I have to have some words.
Rough and a half, man. Some of these character designs.
Yeah, like page 2, right? Page 3 it is. Page 3. So you got a full page spread of John and his green sister on page 2. Page 3, second panel, there's a side view of John's head. What in the absolute hell is going on with the proportions here? Like he looks like a completely different person, and not just compared to other books. He looks, even just compared to the other panels on this page, he does not look the same character.
No, the character right there, and then the character at the bottom of the page are two different characters. You can't tell me different.
Yeah, and the one at the bottom looks like John Stewart. So that's the one that looks right.
Yeah. Also, the sister. How old is this sister supposed to be? Because this woman looks like a late teenager here. So I was like, is this supposed to be mom? And then he calls her Ellie, and I was like, oh.
No.
But mom's in the ring, so wait, what are we doing?
Yeah, I think she's just, wasn't she like, I don't know what age she was supposed to be. I wanted to guess about 12, but even that sounds like it might be too old. Regardless, though, the actual story content here I really like. So it starts with John flying with his sister, and he gets blasted out of the sky, and the big twist here is that it's Kilowog in a yellow lantern outfit.
Yeah, when I saw the yellow, I was like, oh my god, is this our Kilo? Right? Because they were on the same side a while ago. Was not ready for Kilowog.
No, right? That is not the alien lantern you're looking for.
Yeah.
No, Kilowog's here, and he immediately is like, give me that dark ring, the Dark Star ring. And John's like, wait, no, what? I was keeping that to make sure it didn't fall into the wrong hands. And Kilowog just takes it. Like, he pulls it from his hand with the yellow lantern energy, and that's it. And we skip to 12 hours later, and John's waking up after being unconscious for however long. Well, 12 hours, I guess. And Hal's there, Guy's there, and interestingly, Shepard's there. It's interesting they're keeping Shepard around as part of the crew.
Didn't recognize that as Shepard, though. I think it's good, the art. Not to keep harping on the art.
I recognize it because of the hair color and the design of the outfit, but I admit that the face looks very different than what he looked like before.
I was like, when did Guy get a cousin? Because he looks a lot like Guy.
Yeah.
And last I checked, Shepard and Guy did not look alike that much.
Yeah. And then Carol's there as well, who probably looks the most fine out of the 4 characters on that panel, to be honest. Obviously she's just a brunette, but you can tell that it's her though, because it's the Power Rangers rule. She has to be wearing violet to go along with the sapphire thing. But yeah, they basically discuss what happened, and John tells them it was Kilowog. And effectively what comes up here, well, one, Carol reveals that she's a Star Sapphire now, which shocks the rest of the Lanterns. Although, I don't know why Shepard's acting shocked. He doesn't know who this is. This is a stranger as far as he's concerned.
Unless he's, because there's a John Stewart in his dimension, so unless, Carol's not a superhero, right? So,
okay, you're giving them a lot of leeway here.
Yeah.
Yes. But they basically, like, hey, we've also got the what is it called? Jadestone, what we're calling them. Yes, the Amazo.
I like that they're keeping him around. He has a fun kind of, a fun robot sidekick kind of vibe to him.
Well, yeah, he doesn't come with, but he basically comes here, though, because, like, hey, guys, your rings are outdated. You have to have rings that tie in with a new power battery. And they're like, wait, we've got a new power battery? What are you talking about?
I was like, oh, yeah, my bad. I forgot. There's been a lot going on.
Yeah, I've been busy. Right? So, yeah, they make their plans. So, Hal and John and Carol are going off to Thanagar because they want to warn the Thanagar government that some of their delegates have been replaced by shapeshifters, the Durlans, and Tharos is up to all of his stuff, right? So we're finally getting to all that juicy stuff. Meanwhile, Guy and Shepard are going towards Oa to try and sort of see what the situation's like there, and if the others are going to be coming with the army of Thanagarians and whoever else to resist Tharos, then they want to know what's going on, blah 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 blah. The 3 blind unseen men who are doing the blockade and all that, like they basically predict that they're being distracted so that someone can break through the blockade. And we did hear Hal say that he called in a favor to cause a distraction, and it turns out the distraction is Alan Scott. We get him showing up, and the unseen men, like, throughout this issue, like, oh, he's got the Star Heart, well, we want to pull that from his corpse, that's a lot of power for us, we're going to have that. So that's going on too. So I love that, it's bringing a lot of Lanterns together, and while we don't get any of the other ones in this issue, I would definitely expect that once the story plays out a bit more, we'll get to Jess, and we'll get to Joe, and we'll get to
I was expecting to see some of the subterfuge with Jess, because we know that she's been in Tharos's inner circle.
Yes, she's been double agent.
So I was expecting to see some of that. So a bit disappointed that we didn't, but that was more in Green Lantern than anything. So I'm sure Adams will pull that back up.
Yeah. So they try and tell the Thanagarian, like, politicians what's going on, and they kind of hit a brick wall where they just don't believe her, or believe them. And Carol has a little line about, oh, nice to see it's not just Earth politicians who are this idiot or this stupid. And then Tharos shows up. It turns out that the politicians have kind of, like, warned him, and he's showing up here, and they don't believe the Lanterns at all. Tharos is going to have them taken down, but it's actually Carol who has an idea here, where she blasts one of the delegates up in the sort of the where the politicians all are, when they're getting ready to fight all the Thanagarian security guards. And basically on the next page, they look down at the lantern, or the politician that she blasted, the delegate, and it's turned into a Durlan, right? It was a shapeshifter, proving that what they were saying about Tharos replacing delegates and politicians with his own shapeshifters is true. And immediately they're all like, oh, were they telling the truth? So very quickly it's like, okay, Tharos is exposed, and Tharos is like, you know what, I'm sick of playing the games anyway, I'm just going all out. And of course, he's the one that sent Kilowog to get the Darkstar ring, so he immediately whips out a giant tentacle construct of Radiant Dead, starts raising Radiant Dead zombies. So I really loved how everything that was in War Journal has become a part of the main story now too, where the Darkstar ring is a big deal, and it's a power that's been wielded now by the villain. And I think it's all fun, and plus you got Shepard kicking about as well, and whatnot.
Well, and I like too that John's logic for keeping it on him, right, was that, like, this thing's too dangerous to keep out of my sight, right? So they're making it seem like it's this really big deal. So when Tharos does get it and he's using it, you're like, oh no, we just put this all, John just solved this problem. Now it's a whole bigger problem. So it really felt like it was escalating that as well.
Yeah. So the others are, trying to sneak into Oa. Alan Scott's dealing with the Unseeing Men and having some success, basically by using the fourth dimension to kind of like blink in and out of existence. Guy's whole plan to distract everyone on Oa is to release Larfleeze because he's going to cause such a fuss that they'll all be too busy with him. And Shepard points out, but what happens when we have to deal with him later? And Guy just says, that's future Guy's problem. Current Guy's problem is taking the win.
So, we know that I really love Guy Gardner. I've never related him more than when he said that's future Guy's problem. The number of times at work I say, oh, that's future Matt's problem. And then curse, past Matt all the time. So to see that play out, I thought was pretty funny. Also, his plan to distract the guards while he goes and gets Larfleeze is just to yell, and let Shepard deal with him, right? Yep. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, there's a great full page spread of Larfleeze jumping towards the guards, like, where is my special? Where's my light? He's going like that. But back in the main fight, though, like, we got the Radiant Dead rising up, and John's trying to yell at them, don't touch them, or whatever. But basically, around here is where some of the other Durlans are like, hey, Tharos is, like, going full dictator here. And when he eventually loses, which they're assuming is going to happen, like, all the other planets may actually hold our planet responsible for all this and not just blame him. So we should probably help take him down. And that's when one of them jumps up and says, Star Shroud, come forth. And the Star Shroud, again from the War Journal stuff, shows up and seemingly at first kills Tharos, although Tharos is definitely still alive later on. So, more on that in a bit. But yeah, this is like the spirit, if you want to call it that, the Dark Star stuff comes from in the first place. Because obviously there's this bit after he's stabbed Tharos where he's like, Stuart, and Stuart's like, wait, why are you here? How did I get rid of you? So yeah, there's a bit of a face-off that happens here between them, and Hal's like, what's going on? What is this thing? Like, what's happening? So they end up having to fight the Star Shroud, and they end up just forming like bubbles of green energy around it and making more of them to try and contain it because it keeps sort of breaking out of them. And that's when, like, you see Tharos' hands start moving, and he wants revenge. So he calls in something, keeping in mind that Tharos had taken control of all the different Lantern Corps over the last like several months of Green Lantern stories. He calls in Mogo, the Red Lantern planet.
Yep, he's red now, and he's angry, and it's heading straight for Thanagar.
Yep. He's hit the nuclear button, and he's brought in Mogo, which obviously all of the plot around Tharos was that he was with scientists developing ways to like mix the different lantern colors. That's why we had the lanterns that worked for him that were switching between the different like colors of the spectrum. Yeah, this is the nuclear option. I think it's interesting. I mean, admittedly, I wasn't expecting Tharos to like be put in the back foot this quickly, but him being this wounded villain who's not going to like, well, if I can't win, then I'm going to be the pissiest loser that I can possibly be and take out whoever I can. I do think fits him quite well, so I'm not mad at it either.
No, and too, the Durlans walk over him and say that they're gonna, go back to Oa and take all of this technology that he's developed too. So again, that's also his ego at play. And then too, he's now speaking with that Radiant Dead energy, right? Because his speech bubbles are all on black.
Yes. Which I guess actually implies that he did get killed by the Star Shroud, and then the Radiant Dead ring is what's kind of resurrecting
keeping him alive. Yeah. And that's what he allows to, he calls down Mogo. And it was just like, oh, I wasn't ready for that one. I turned the page and it's Mogo with the full Red Lantern logo on him. And I was like, oh boy, all right.
It's been so long since I've seen Mogo. Like, if you'd asked me to name it, I don't know if I could have done it from memory. I mean, obviously, as soon as they said it, I'm like, oh yeah, Mogo. But like, it's been so long since I've seen the damn thing that. So, yeah, there you go. The big bombastic. This is it continues in Green Lantern 16. The art's called Civil Core, and I'm looking forward to it. The Green Lantern run's been great, and bringing in the John Short stuff from the other series is a fun bit. So be cool to see if we get another Green Lantern book to go alongside the main one soon. But as it is, this was excellent, and I'm super into what they're building here with all the United Planet stuff, and it finally kind of paying off and taking some new turns. I wasn't expecting the stuff from John Short's book to play such a big role in it, which is actually kind of exciting. So cool. The one downside is the art. They are like, it's not always bad. There's definitely some panels that are pretty solid. Like like I think Tharis tends to end up looking quite good, to be honest, for the most part.
The non-human characters look great.
Yeah. But all the human faces do struggle at times. Not every panel, but a lot of the time they do.
Yeah, the page where the Star Shroud and John is looking at each other. Just look about how ripped Hal and John are. Like they're on all the gas. So man, the art was definitely not a sticking point exactly, but I was just like, oof. Nah, I hope this is the art that continues. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It's chances are it was just for this one shot, and then the main books, on with whoever. So, I mean, we'll see. But I like that a lot of because we started this Green Lantern run 15 months ago, right? And it feels like everything has been building to this finally happening, like this Tharis stuff, United Planets. I appreciate that much forethought went into it, and we're going to get to see it play out. Because it does make it feel exciting. It makes it feel like, we have genuinely been building to this for a year and a half. So, yeah. And so far, so good. I'm enjoying it. Fun time. All right, what are you giving the Green Lantern Civil Core special? I'm
going to give this a straight 7.
Really? Just a 7?
Yeah. Most of that's because that's all to do with the art, but yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go about an 8. And with the same idea being that I would have probably went a bit higher if it wasn't for the art kind of dragging it down a little bit. But I'm really digging. I think how much the John Short stuff with the Radiant Dead is actually kind of sprinkling into the main story with Tharos and the United Planets. I wasn't expecting it to be that mixed. It makes sense that both writers were working on this, and it makes me wonder just how much input Johnson's still going to have on Green Lantern stuff for a little while. But really cool. I'm into it. All right, Batman, Gotham by Gaslight, The Kryptonian Age, Issue 5. Andy Diggle writing with Leonardo Fernandez on the art. So, last issue, we had someone in Electricity being held captive by Lex Luthor. I think one of our comments guessed, what if this is Electric Blue Superman? And for a minute, for one page, I thought, oh, maybe they're right, because Lex says he's had him captive for about 30 years, and I'm like, that sounds about the age of Superman. And then, of course, quite quickly, you find out, no, this was a lab assistant who was struck by lightning that hit something that looked very much like a flash symbol on the desk. And it turns out this is, in fact, Jay Garrick. So, So the tragedy of Jay Garrick in this version of the universe is that Lex Luthor has held him prisoner for 30 years experimenting on him.
And he's using him as a energy source, right?
Yeah.
Also, I do like that this ties also the whole Kryptonian thing. Because he talks about he sees something that comes across as he's doing the experiments. And when you see that the lightning strikes that flash symbol looking device, Lex has a head full of red hair, right? And then when that explodes, that's what burns it off. So I do like that they're still playing within those guidelines that, Superman's coming has something to do with him not having hair anymore.
Well, yeah, that's the whole separate part of this I hadn't even mentioned yet, is that Superman's ship seemingly did not come all the way from Krypton. Apparently, it was something that was secretly orbiting the Earth for a long time, and it was because of a big solar flare, which is also what led to it was so Superman's ship landing is what made the lightning strike the thing in the lab, which caused the accident, which made Jay Garrick a speedster and took Lex Luthor's hair. But it sounds like, no, this was something that was ancient, that was orbiting the Earth. Again, tied into this idea that the Kryptonian Age was this time from before, as opposed to just, stuff from Krypton. But, yeah, very curious. And, we'd been saying for a while that, okay, we've introduced the Green Lantern. I expect Golden Age Flash to pop up soon as well. And obviously we got the Victor Stone introduction last issue, which, by the way, Lex in this universe is an evil prick. Not only is he kept Jay Garrick in this box for however long, right?
30 years.
30 years. He intentionally, when Victor declines working with them because he thinks this is inhumane, he even gives him a "I said good day." He gives him one of those. When he drives off in his car, Lex just pulls out a detonator and blows him up. And I'm like, okay, this is how he gets to the point where he's missing half of his limbs and needs cyborg parts. Okay, that's Lex Luthor's doing.
This is him at his pettiest. He goes, great chance to try out my remote detonator. And then just boom, you're just like, oh my God. I love, as much as, Lex is one of my favorite characters because he does have that redeeming quality and he could use his powers for good, but he's petty and he won't. He doesn't like the fact that people like Superman more than him. And here it's even beyond that, where he's just like, watch me, mad scientist.
Oh yeah, and it makes sense that they're going the mad scientist route because this is obviously set in the olden days, so it fits thematically. We go back to Gotham and Bruce is prepping something. Turns out to be a bat zeppelin. So more on that later.
So when his girlfriend, his wife, whoever she is, it's not Selena, it's the other girl.
Although at the end of this scene though, when Batman's leaving to go on his zeppelin, which is he's going to investigate the train crash because there's that ring's been compromised, right? So that's what he's going to investigate. That's why he's taking the bat zeppelin, which he's given giant bat wings, might we add. He kisses this woman goodbye, and I wasn't sure who she was either. But then she basically says, "Hey, Alfred, you were in like the military, right? Why don't you teach me some art of the blade?" Which made me think, wait, is this maybe like Batgirl or someone? Like, who is this? Like, who's Alfred training here?
Yeah. But yeah, so she talks about, Batman's a necessity, but he can't be in all places at once. And then they're looking up at something, and he goes, the bat wings might be a touch too much. And Bruce just looks at it and goes, the bat wings are entirely necessary. I didn't realize they were talking about the Zeppelin. I thought they were talking about just Batman in general.
No.
Right? Yeah. And then when we get the first look of the, I'm like, oh my God, those are giant bat wings. That gave me a good chuckle. Yeah,
because it rises up through the roof of this big industrial building, and then you just see him flying up. And I love that you get him like manning the big wheel like an old boat, and then you just get a close up of his face, and he's smirking because he's so proud of his bat zeppelin.
I love it. It's so we get to say the phrase bat zeppelin. Like, it's so fun.
Yeah. So I'm really curious how this woman turns out to be, because I don't remember her from previous issues, and the fact that she's going to be trained and possibly become a fighter definitely makes me think she's one of the characters we know from Batman lore.
Yeah, well, no, she's Julie Madison. That's who he marries in this universe.
Oh, I forgot that.
Yes. So I had to look up her name here because she's in the roster on League of Comics.
Okay, that's less interesting then. That doesn't mean anything.
But the fact though too that she wants to be trained in that way. I mean, who's to say she doesn't become Robin and is a swashbuckling sidekick to the Gotham?
Yeah, I suppose.
Batman by Gaslight,
They could do something with that, I suppose. But my mind, I'd forgotten who she was, so my mind was racing about, okay, who are they setting up here? Back to Lex and Cyborg. Cyborg wakes up. It turns out it's been considered, and Lex is like, "Hey, you should be thanking me. You're alive because of me." Although he reveals like 2 pages later that he had him declared dead. So Vic's his is to do as he pleases. He can do whatever he wants to him, and no one's ever going to come. And he sees that his legs are missing. He's lost an arm. He's absolutely in shock. He wants to, kill Lex, clearly. He wants to, he's imagining it. And Lex is like, oh yeah, you're thinking of, strangling me, right? Yeah, think of that. And then he looks over, and there's, a Terminator-style arm on the table. And he's like, aha, the mind wills it, and the limbs obey. So, by provoking Victor into, wanting to squeeze his hand, he's, obviously he's already hooked him up to this arm, and the arm's squeezing his fingers. So...
knowing where technology was in the 1890s, the amount of oil and pneumatic tubes and stuff that's going into this, that really stretching Luther's resources here.
I'm very curious as to what steampunk Cyborg is going to look like, all things considered. But again, this just fits into the mad scientist stuff that we've got going with Lex. Pardon me.
Yep. And the way that he's in the shadows here, and he's blue, it makes him very inhuman.
Oh yeah.
As we're looking at him, which I think is a nice touch.
Yeah, that panel at the bottom of the page before the arm, where he's sort of like tilting his head up a little bit, as Vic's leaning forward. There's something just so devilish about the way he kind of looks on that panel that I really like. There's a quick interlude here where we get Constantine on a boat, and I believe the Phantom Stranger comes to extract knowledge from him.
Yeah. Who's I don't believe is the Phantom Stranger as we know him. I feel the way that the scene plays out, where how he gets the information, it says he's just a stranger here. This is Martian Manhunter, if I had to guess. You know,
well, he's a telepath. That would make sense, because he does take the information from his head, and he would fit in as a Justice League member, since we're introducing all of those. So yeah, Constantine's just sort of left pissed off.
It's that panel where after he lifts him up into the sky, and we just get the eyes, right?
Yeah,
and
the red glowing eyes. Yeah,
and there's just a bit of green bouncing off of him.
It was the way it bolded the word stranger, in the same way that it bolded the word Flash earlier on when Lex was talking about Jay. I thought, oh, is that who this is meant to be? But I think you're right. I think it's Jean, which is cool. And then we go to Smallville. Lois is there with Jimmy because they were sent there last issue, and Alan Scott's trying to sell rides in his balloon, claiming that he's got a magic power from his ring. But when Lois actually challenges him and calls him a huckster, he tries to demonstrate and he can't do it, which shows that he's not actually mastered how to. Because obviously the only time he's used it so far is when he was in under threat of death. It kind of triggered it, but he doesn't really know how to actually do it yet. So Lois kind of mocks him, and he's like, "Come on, let me make a living." You know,
oh crap! It's Lois Lane. More characters need to have that reaction when they see Lois. Jesse's like, "Oh no, not her. She's gonna sniff out the BS." I thought that was really good too.
So issue 5, we finally get the introduction. We build up this entire last sequence as a build up to meeting Superman, right? Or Sheriff Kent, I suppose, is maybe a better way
the Sheriff of Smallville, which that is a great nickname.
Because they mentioned, there's rumors that the sheriff in this town that we've not seen yet is the luckiest man alive, and because that was bolded, I was like, luckiest man alive. Who's that implying? And I was racking my brain. Who's a lucky character in DC? And nothing was clicking. And it wasn't until, of course, so this deputy shows up and he tries to have a standoff with this criminal who was trying to stab a guy, and doesn't do very well because the bad guy's backed up by a mysterious man in black who turns out to be Deadshot, and he's like, the fastest gun in the West, makes sense to do that. Deadshot is that type of character, and Deadshot shoots off the deputy's belt, shoots off the deputy's gun, and is about to kill him. And they mention, there's a rumble coming, and then we sort of realize when he shows up that rumble's Superman running at super speed, which makes me wonder if he can fly yet. Actually, maybe he's not figured that out.
Maybe not. The cover would suggest otherwise, right? As he's hovering in the air there.
That's true.
Covers aren't necessarily.
It could be building up to him learning to do that. You don't know
for sure.
But he sort of like shows up. He's got a red jacket on, he's wearing the glasses, and of course he Deadshot fires his pistols and Clark goes down, but then he just gets up and says, "Oh, I'm a klutz, I tripped." and Deadshot's like, "I didn't miss." What's the meaning of this?
Well, I love whoever the guy that's with Deadshot is like, "You missed him." He goes, "The hell I did." Just that sneer on his face.
And then Clark specifically moves so that the sheriff's badge takes the next bullet, and then he just uses his heat vision to heat up the guns, and then he just sort of gets up and goes, "Oh golly, a double misfire!" Like that's firearms are dangerous. Because everyone was sort of mocking him as he walked in, because they're like, "Wait, he's a sheriff with no guns," and he's like, "Nah, I don't really like them." So basically, the end of this issue is Clark's arresting Deadshot, is that both the page before and the final page is basically that this is piquing the interest of both Lois, who thinks, there's something more to this. He's not just lucky, and she's, her journalist nose is tingling. But the last page is, a man in a black hat and like a black coat watching in shadows, and I'm like, okay, that's Batman, and he's civvies, and he is like watching this and going, there's something more to this guy. This is Batman, again, much like Lois with the journal, investigation skills, this is Batman's detective skills being like, there's more to this. This is someone.
It shows him holding those knives, right?
Yes.
So do you think he was going to wing those at Deadshot in case?
I think that's the implication, that he was going to step in and stop it from happening.
Because I didn't think this was, I thought this was somebody more sinister, but that makes much more sense because he's all in shadow. He's dressed super nice, right? Like,
because we see him get to the train briefly, right before this scene. You see the Bat Zeppelin. You see the Bat Zeppelin over where the train tracks were, and you see him look at the Green Lantern trunk or whatever it is. So he he knows to look for the big green balloon, basically. Right. So he's come to Smallville. So we've said this before, but it's worth mentioning again. This was originally like a 12-issue book. All of a sudden it changed to 6. There is not a way in hell that the next issue ends this story.
No.
Not even a chance. So maybe they're going to retitle it and renumber it to try and just boost sales in the middle. I don't really care, but they better finish the whole thing.
Because this has been fantastic.
Yeah,
it's one of the books I look forward to the most. Yeah. And again, no Wonder Woman in this one, but I didn't miss it because we had so much other stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, we've established her. She's on her way.
Yeah.
It's going to be quite a thing seeing all the different Justice League members like come together. It is interesting though that we're dealing with Golden Age versions of Flash and Green Lantern. We've got these, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman are obviously go back to that time as well. It is funny that like Martian Manhunter is a bit more recent of a creation, and then Cyborg's even more recent than that. It's interesting that they made the choice to include some of these. I guess it's just good for the sake of variety, but that's interesting. No Aquaman though, at least yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
I mean, we haven't been up to kind of the waters. It's just kind of Gotham. Gotham Harbor's the closest, but we do know the League of Shadows is running around, right? Catwoman's running around still. There's still so much other stuff that if this is supposed to be the second to last issue, there's still so much stuff in the air. There's no way it's going to be fulfilling if it's just 6 issues. I
feel like maybe Clark and Bruce like talking to each other for the first time could very well be the end of the thing.
Yeah.
Or I don't know what, but like it really feels like this is just ending the introduction to the story as opposed to like ending the story. Like this feels like part 1 of how maybe they even extended it. Maybe they've split it into like, okay, this first book's only going to be 6 issues, but there are going to be 2 more 6-issue books. It'll be a trilogy now or something. I don't know, but there's not a way in hell this ends with 1 more issue. We've barely got started. We've just introduced Lex being an evil prick. We're not there yet.
Yeah, no, and just the introduction of Clark as this bumbling sheriff. He kind of has a Jimmy Stewart quality to him. He's wearing the white hat. Everything feels about right,
red coat, blue trousers, yellow ascot thing.
A lot of fun, and just Deadshot the hell I did. Like that's straight from a Western. I just watched The Quick and the Dead, and I had Gene Hackman's character written all over him. It's
good stuff. Yeah, been enjoying this book. It was a nice surprise when it started, and obviously now I just look forward to it every month because it's been great. What are you giving Kryptonian Age issue 5?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I find it hard to argue with that. I'll go straight 8, I think.
Okay.
I'm gonna go straight 8. I don't have much of a reason other than just I don't know. It's what I feel. It's what I'm feeling in my heart.
I do that a lot too.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, one final thing then. I have a Patreon book to do. Every month at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV, you can make me read a book at one of the higher tiers of your choosing. Obviously, one of our patrons is making me go through Batman and the Outsiders. This is going to be issue 18 of that series. Last issue was a Metamorpho-focused issue that ended up with the team time-traveling back to ancient Egypt, and Metamorpho's under the command of this villain named Acton, and the Outsiders are with the Pharaoh, and like basically plotting what to do. And the issue kind of ended with the idea that, hey, to preserve history and make sure everything happens as it's supposed to, like, we may have to let Metamorpho die if that's what it's going to take to like preserve everything. There's a really interesting bit actually where the Pharaoh gets like the guy to do the sand reading again, and it shows like Metamorpho wearing the Pharaoh's hat or his crown, and the Pharaoh's basically ready to give up, and he's like, hey, like, if this is what Ra's will is, then I'll just have to, you know, accept it and like give it up. You know, this is, my time is done. And Batman turns to the outside and goes, he's Ramses like the 7th, and there's going to be like 12 of the bastards. Like, there's no way he just like gives up and isn't Pharaoh anymore. We have to stop this. Also, the villain wants to use Jace and just have her tell him a bunch of stuff about the future, science and things, so he can, you know, advance ahead of everyone else and have
future woman tell me things I can use.
Yes. Tell me about the DNA. Not that he would say that. He doesn't know what DNA is, but
no.
So yeah, like that's kind of the gist of it. Batman's like, hey, the first time Metamorpho encountered the meteor, why didn't he get mind controlled and time travel? What was the difference? And he wants Sapphire to try and think of anything, but she can't for now. She's too distraught. Katana, guarding Sapphire, you know, basically thinks to herself that this is making her remember Gabrielle and miss her. So we cut back to present day to get a little bit more of her story, and we see Gabrielle, or Violet is the name she technically really has, at least for now. If this all turns out to be true, I'm not sure it is going to be true, but she basically gets shunned by people at school who say that she was a complete bitch before she like left and got amnesia. That she was awful, she treated them horribly, and they've not forgot it, and she's horrified to hear this and feels alone. And then another girl comes up and talks to her, and at first that seems okay, but then this girl turns out to be the sister of the guy that Violet had been dating that ended up dead before, you know, Halo had amnesia and, you know, went missing and turned up with the Outsiders. So this girl, you know, says, oh, like, you know, he was with you before he died, and she slaps Halo across the face. It says, the cops might not be able to prove it, but I know you killed him. I know it, as like people pull her away. And Halo says, I didn't. But then there's a little thought bubble saying, but what if I did? She doesn't know. She doesn't know if she killed someone. So yeah, it's really milking and like setting up like more of this story, and like there's a lot of drama here. I'm really curious to what the resolution to this is going to be. Like, is this really who she was? And if it is who she was, then what actually happened with this boy? And was she a complete monster, or is there something else going on here? If I feel like my guess right now is that it is this girl's body, but the like Halo who's inside of her is actually like an alien being or something that's like taking the body over. That'd be my guess right now, but I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, back to ancient Egypt. Basically, the Pharaoh explains to Batman that there's a big celebration coming up that's the anniversary of when the second Pharaoh diverted the Nile to turn Egypt into one land so that everyone would be united, because it used to be two tribes, blah, 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 blah.
And he's two kingdoms.
He's insistent in going to the celebration, even though Batman's like, this is exactly when they try and assassinate you, this is a stupid idea. But the Pharaoh's like, no, we're definitely doing it. So they get in their boats and they go. Now, here's where the most interesting thing happens in the issue for me. Not so much for the story, right? The story's fun, the story's good, I like where it goes, and I like these character beats and whatnot, but they never really brought this up in the first issue. But of course, one thing we know about ancient Egypt is that it was heavily, you know, it heavily ran on the use of slaves, right?
Yes.
And we're on the boat, traveling down the Nile to, you know, wherever the celebration is going to be. And the Pharaoh says to like the guy in charge of the boat, saying, hey, double speed here, I want to get there, you know, quicker. And this guy turns around, he's got a whip, and he starts whipping the slaves. And of course, Black Lightning comes up and punches this guy and says, "That's no way to treat, these people. There's no reason to do that." And he suggests, "Hey, Geoforce, can you give everyone a hand to get the boat moving?" So Geoforce actually basically dives out the back of the boat and uses his powers to act like an engine, effectively, and it makes the boat go faster than any of these people have ever experienced it. And the Pharaoh's in his cabin. He goes, "Whoa, this speed! Double rations for everyone tonight at dinner." Like, this is marvelous. So that's it. That's the whole bit. But I did think it was interesting, one, that they did actually try to address this, and that there are slaves here, and the black man on the team would in particular notice this and want to step in and do something about it. But I also think it's interesting to note that it doesn't address it directly, is what I meant to say there.
There you go.
In the sense that, he just kind of like comes in and sticks up for them and says, "Hey, there's no reason to treat them badly like that." He doesn't actually try and talk about slavery. He doesn't bring up the subject. He doesn't like actually hit on what it is. And if I was to make a guess here, I would say this is like the writers walking a fine line with editorial in terms of what they were maybe allowed to do. I do genuinely wonder if they would have went further with this and actually have Black Lightning like feel uncomfortable about being here, seeing some of this stuff, and maybe, just because it's the 80s, hey, that's too serious for a comic book. You can't put that in there. It's that's going to hit too hard. It's too dark, too dramatic, whatever. Too real world. Like you can kind of allude to it. You can have him be the one symbolic to step in and stick up for them, but you can't have him actually kind of like address the fact, and we never really like have him confront the Pharaoh and say you shouldn't have slaves or anything like that. So I do think it's interesting historically to look at this page and just kind of see like the effort to try and address the fact that it's here and that they didn't ignore it, but at the same time they couldn't go all out with it. And whether or not that was a decision that was forced upon them, or maybe even a creative choice they made because they didn't want that to be the focus. Interesting either way, just to see like how they approach the subject. But very curious.
Which then, in a couple of years, you're going to have Morrison writing Animal Man. Yes. Where it's really going off of, kind of these meditations on life and death and creation and everything. So maybe this kind of helped push it that way as well.
Maybe I do wonder, like, as simple as Dark Knight Returns and stuff like that, just completely shifted. Like, oh, we can have darker, more harder hitting comics that tackle serious subjects. Maybe,
because this is pre-Watchmen too, right? Watchmen didn't start coming out to 86.
That sounds right. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, and this I have a page open with it. This came out in February of 85. Okay. So we're still a little bit ways there. But yeah, definitely seems like stuff has shifted after, this era for sure.
Yeah, definitely a shift in that sort of mid to late 80s where a lot of those books were really redefining what you could do in comics. I really enjoy this book, and it's fun seeing all these like early versions of the characters and the team dynamics and all that. But it definitely still feels like of an era where everything feels a bit, happier. When Batman speaks to the team, it sounds like he's like, "Yes, and that's the sensible thing to do, everyone. Congratulations." He speaks in a way that you'd never write Batman now, because of just how comic book writing had changed. And yeah, obviously stuff like Dark Knight Returns and Year One was a big part of that. So just interesting. So of course, Metamorpho attacks when this celebration is happening, as you'd expect. And the guards have trouble fighting him. Sapphire even tries to talk sense to him, and she wasn't even meant to be here. She's stuck on the boat because she wants to come and try and save Rex. But he just holds her up. Turns his hand into a big sort of metal cylinder to kind of contain her. And then this is where the book gets really dark. So as much as I was just saying it didn't want to like go too far with actually addressing slavery, it does. This was hinted at last issue. But Denise, who, if you don't remember who Denise is, she's the girl that Geoforce is kind of,
seeing?
Not seeing, because he's with Halo now. But this was the girl that he went on like a date with
Okay.
And it made Halo jealous and kind of yeah. So anyway, so it was hinted at that she had a creepy kind of like tutor or lecturer last issue or teacher or whatever it is, and yeah, it must be a teacher because she wants a scholarship. That's so yeah, she must still be in high school. And here we're back in present day. She goes to this teacher because he's going to sign off on her scholarship. And he puts the scholarship down in front of her. It's not filled in yet. And he's like, hey, whether or not I fill this in will depend on you, Denise. And he kisses her and, tries to grab her. And she's saying, no, please don't. And so he backs away and says, hey, you want this scholarship? This is the way you'll get it. Maybe this isn't the right place. Maybe you should come to me for the weekend and, we can sort things out that way. We can spend the holidays together. That was the exact phrase he used. And she's like, I'll report you. And he's like, no one will believe you. I've got a spotless record, and you need this scholarship. So, give in. It won't be that bad. And he tries to touch her again, and she freaks out and slaps him and goes running. He rips up the scholarship in front of her. And basically, she then starts crying, and she starts thinking about what her parents are going to think about her, not getting her scholarship. That her parents had high hopes for her, that she's maybe going to get kicked out of school. So this scene ends with her going home, going into her bathroom, and pouring out an entire bottle of sleeping pills into her hand.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, and then it cuts away there, but at the very end of the issue, when the story wraps up, there's one panel at the end of her lying, possibly dead, from committing suicide. So, for everything I was saying before about the other subject, they went all in the sexual harassment and it driving a girl to suicide. This actually is quite intense for what this book is. So I can't say it wasn't pushing some boundaries in some ways for the time period, because this does feel quite severe.
Yeah.
Anyway, back in the ancient Egypt stuff, big fights taking place. Sapphire falls down, and Batman and Katana have to catch her in his cape, which is okay, sure. Like an old jumper situation on a roof.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Metamorpho grabs the Pharaoh's helmet. It seems like he's all fine, but Sapphire remembers around here, or just before here, that when Metamorpho first encountered the meteor, he had taken a pill to help deal with the pain that it was causing him.
Mm-hmm.
And Batman basically realizes, oh, maybe that's how it can work this time. Maybe we can break the spell that the bad guys got on him with the same kind of thing. So it's a little bit far-fetched, but Batman basically engineers a scenario here where all of the guards that work for the bad guy are getting beat up by the outsiders. So the bad guy's like, hey, Metamorpho, come over here and help everyone. And he turns into a gas that will numb them all and sort of stop them. And then immediately he kind of snaps out of it, and Batman's like, yes, I made him turn into a gas with an anesthetic property because I figured that would cure him. And I'm like, okay, you're lucky that that's exactly what he decided to do in the situation, because really it was a bit open for him to interpret and fight these, the team however he wanted to. But it successfully broke the spell. He goes over and punches the bad guy. He hugs Sapphire. It's a whole thing, and the Pharaoh's very grateful. And they do a bit of magic to send everyone back to the future. And the end of this story is that Jace tells Metamorpho that this continued exposure to the meteor and going back has made your condition irreversible. We can never fix you now. And he's really upset about it. He says, I'm still a freak. And Sapphire steps in and yells at him and says, I'm tired of you saying that I deserve better and that I should prove it. And she yells out, really angrily, Rex, will you marry me? And then he says yes and kisses her. So happy page, except for the panel at the bottom, which is Denise lying on the bathroom floor, seemingly dead, just to bring you back down to reality. So, yeah, I'm very fascinated about where it's going with the Halo stuff, because that's building an intriguing backstory for whatever her character was before she became Halo. I already gave my theory on what might be going on there. This Denise stuff is wild because like she's such a relatively minor character that I had to remind myself who she was because like I didn't remember who she was. But yeah, curious to see where that goes and like what we do with that and like, you know, I at the very least assume that it's going to get Geoforce to get the team, or maybe personally he'll start investigating the school or something to figure out what happened to her. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a good chance that they'll get her in hospital next issue, and they'll pump her stomach or whatever. They'll save her. She'll be fine, all things considered. But yeah, very dark subplot to this issue that was so separate from the rest of the issue that it really stuck out as like a super dark element. So yeah, very interesting to see how it tackles various subjects at the time. And maybe the sad truth is that comic books were at a place where they were allowed to write more about suicide than they were to write about slavery. Maybe that's just the hard truth of it, or maybe it's just a case of, oh, there's so much other dark stuff in this issue, we have to tone one of them down a little bit. You know, whatever the reason, fascinating to read and kind of like see them juggle those different elements. Yeah. Honestly, if I have any complaints, it's that the Rex mind control stuff does feel like it's wrapped up quite abruptly. I was expecting this to have a third part. As late as like 4 pages from the end, I thought, oh, there's no way this is going to wrap up in 4 pages. This is going to be a part 3. And then it wrapped up. It was over. It was done. And you know, all is well. All is finished. So. Yeah, I mean, a little rushed in that side of things, but it was a fun enough adventure. Some really curious little character beats that came out for it, especially for Black Lightning. All the stuff in present day is super interesting right now, though, as well. So, no, good second half to this story. I'd probably give it a solid 8 out of 10, with just the nitpicks being some of the rushed main story stuff. So, looks like the next issue is another Christmas-themed issue. Because I remember getting one about a year ago, actually, a Christmas-themed issue. So we're back around to Christmas, seemingly. And Superman's on the cover, so we'll see how Superman plays into things. So, fun. But there you go. That'll take us out to the final part of the show. Favorite panel / moment of the week, favorite cover, favorite art, and of course, top 5 books. Matt, what is your panel / moment of the week?
Let's see. Mogo coming in at the end of Civil Core was pretty cool.
That was big.
Yeah, that was pretty big. Let's see. Gotham by Gaslight had some cool ones. I did love Clark tripping. You know, he got shot, but he makes it look like he trips. That was real fun. The Bat Zeppelin. That's a pretty fun reveal. There's a lot from Absolute Batman. That's real cool. In fact, I'll go from Absolute Batman, and it's when Alfred is narrating and basically showing that this is just a show, right? And it's that sequence of, you know, the action stuff that's going on, and he's using the blades from his ears and all this other stuff, but he's going out of his way not to kill them. That's mine.
Yeah, sure. What am I picking? Yeah, there's some really great action bits in Absolute Batman. I also liked the big moments from Green Lantern. Kryptonian Age had some great stuff too. But yeah, I mentioned it during action, but that moment where Kara says, like, which basically just says what the merged Kryptonians were saying, which is begging for death. Like, you know, they're saying kill us. That just kind of hit. That hit just the right spot and the right tone for what that needed, where it was like, okay, like, obviously they look kind of cool and monstrous when, like, they were fighting them, but this, like, tinge of sadness after the fact really sold it. It's like, okay, you know what? Like, this feels like a big deal that this is happening and we have to do something about it. So I'm going to go with that. But yeah, there was lots to pick from this week. For covers this week, I was just kind of looking through them a little bit there as well.
There's so many Absolute Batman covers.
There is.
I was looking at them when you're talking about Outsiders, and I'm just like, oh my god. I almost got analysis paralysis.
So I'll a couple I'll mention. There was a Jim Lee Absolute Batman, which was pretty cool. There's a Federici Green Lantern cover, which is quite nice, which I ain't mad at all. There's a Alex Maleev Kryptonian Age cover with Batman on a chimney, which is really cool. But if I'm picking one, I think I'm going to go with the Eddie Barrows cover for Action Comics, which is Superman in the phone booth. It's kind of the old school black shield that he's got on his outfit. But just, Eddie Barrows, those heavy shadows, just has a really cool kind of like modern but golden age kind of feel to it at the same time. Really nice.
Yeah, it seems like it was a leftover cover from the last arc.
That makes sense because that's what he was wearing in the last arc. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you picking?
So a lot of the ones that you mentioned, so I don't have to mention too much of them, but that Green Lantern Federici cover is just fantastic. Yep. So that's gonna be mine.
Oh no, I can't fault it. It was probably that was probably my second pick. Like that was probably what was runner up. All right, art of the week.
This one's tough because there's a lot of even stuff in there.
Yep.
But for me, it comes down to Dragotta for Absolute Batman, and then the Clayton Henry, Skylar Patridge 1-2 punch for Action. Batman's and Robin is close too, but upon thinking about it, that Patridge art is really strong. So I'll go with Action Comics.
Yeah. Action. I really like the art in the backup, and Henry's art was much better than I typically find his art, so that's cool. The art in Batman and Robin is fantastic by Javier Fernandez. I can't just say Fernandez because we got a Leonardo Fernandez as well on Kryptonian Age, and the Kryptonian Age art was excellent. That has typically been excellent every issue. Dragotta's art did great action sequences. I think I'm going to go with Leonardo Fernandez for Gotham by Gaslight, Kryptonian Age, but it is definitely close between the Fernandezes, and Dragotta's pretty up there as well. The only art that I was heavily down on was probably Larroca for Green Lantern. Yeah. That was the one I had the biggest problems with for sure. So, all right, top 5 books, Mac. Go.
All right, one's going to be Absolute Batman. I can't believe I'm actually going through that. 2 is Gotham by Gaslight, the Kryptonian Age. 3 is Action. 4 is Batman and Robin, and 5 is the Green Lantern Civil War or Civil Corps, not Civil War Corps, but Civil Corps.
Okay, my number 1 is going to be Action. My number 2 is Absolute Batman. My number 3 is I'll go Kryptonian Age, 4 Green Lantern Civil Corps Special, and 5 Batman and Robin. But a good week though, because if Batman and Robin was my weakest book this week, then yeah, we were having a good time by and large. So, all right, I'll tell you what's coming next week from DC Comics, everyone. Let's see how packed it is, because I remember this looking busy. All right, next week we have Nightwing, End of the Run, 118. We have Batman Superman World's Finest 32. We got Action Comics 1071. We have Wonder Woman 14. We have Titans 16. We have Green Lantern 16. We have Catwoman 69. Batman and Robin Year 1. So that's kicking off next week. So that'll be an interesting book. We have Dark Knights of Steel All Winter Issue 4. We have Batman Full Moon Issue 1. So there's a Bat Werewolf book coming out.
Yes, I know.
We got Jenny Sparks Issue 3. And then we have a collection of facsimile editions, reprints, and maybe a Scooby-Doo book. So that's, but that's already quite a lot, though, to be fair. So, yeah, busy week with a few interesting number ones.
Yeah,
more Mark Waid. How much? We're getting a lot of Mark Waid right now. It's great.
Yeah.
So,
three books next week.
I wasn't even thinking in 1 week. I was just thinking that Batman and Robin Year 1 was yet another, ongoing book from him. But yeah, right. Yeah, 3 issues next week from Mark Waid.
That's right. World's Finest Action. Well, that's weekly, and the Batman and Robin. But Return to Wonder Woman. I'm excited for that. Like, for as good as those tie-ins were, I'm excited to get back to the main.
I mean, story. Honestly, it says something that the least exciting thing next week is World's Finest.
Yeah.
Like, everything else, like, I would probably rank above it in my excitement meter.
Yeah.
Out of the ones that I'm going to read, obviously I'm not counting Catwoman in that, but...
No. But All Winter's high. We're excited for Green Lantern. Titans is a new team, right?
Yeah. I meant
Slayman.
That could disappoint, of course. There's definitely, the room for that to disappoint. But, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, cool. That'll pretty much bring an end to the show, everyone. I'll just tell you how you can support the show if you want to and help keep it coming. You can do that over at patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. A few dollars per month helps keep the lights on, helps keep the books coming, and wouldn't be able to do this without that support. It also supports everything else I do on the various YouTube channels and podcast feeds. There's movie podcasts, multiple. If you go to Mail Fuzz Movies, the YouTube page, you'll get a sample of all of them. But they're all available on your podcast audio feeds as well if you want them that way. Or over Mail Fuzz TV, where I review TV shows. Right now, most interestingly, perhaps to this audience, is the Penguin TV show, which I've been reviewing.
Mm-hmm.
And that show's pretty good, Matt. Like it's.
I'm waiting for it to end so we can gang through it. That said, I'm a pretty big guy myself, not height wise, but I'm bulky. They have the costume used in Matt Reeves' Batman for Colin Farrell. That suit they put on him is husky. Like that was bigger than me. Like it would be big on me, and I'm a pretty big guy.
Yeah,
or an extra large shirt. So,
by the way,
that dude's doing some acting.
Like you may still want to just wait and binge it, but I'll tell you this right now: it has it's proper episodes that feel like full things that have got like ending like thematic points, so it doesn't suffer from like you need to binge it or it doesn't work.
The problem mainly for me is it's easier to do the binge model. We can set aside time, for different things. But yeah, I just keep hearing nothing but good things, especially about Kristen Milotti.
Yeah, she's very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you want to check out that, guys, you can go do that. But that is pretty much us. We'll be back next week with that hefty week, and you just know solicits are going to be next week as well, so look forward to that beast of an episode. So thank you very much for joining us. Not that this one was a short one by any means, but still, thank you very much. We'll see you guys next time. Keep reading DC Comics, and remember to never get lost in the Speed Force.